aware of the bad intentions of the other party. Ning Yuanshu was shocked and the light under his feet flashed as his figure receded rapidly. But where could he go? Before Ning Yuanshu could move, Yang Kai had already stretched out his hand, grabbed his collar, and sent slap after slap across his handsome, sinister face. Pa, pa. After the crisp sound, Ning Yuanshu was completely beaten up. When Yang Kai ceased his action, both of Ning Yuanshu's cheeks were already swollen, giving him the look of a pig's head that had been soaked in boiling water for several days. The surrounding cultivators all went silent, avoiding eye contact with each other as they wore horrified expressions. Previously, Yang Kai had acted out at the Qin family and killed the Vice Valley Master of Evil Moon Valley and injured another unnamed middle-aged man. Neither Chu Huairen nor the middle-aged man were born into big sex though, and none had an Emperor Realm Master standing behind them, so as long as Yang Kai was strong enough, there was no need for him to worry about being retaliated against. However, Ning Yuanshu was different. He was the young palace master of Flying Saint Palace. Flying Saint Palace was ranked quite highly amongst the second-class sects, and Ning Yuanshu's father, Ning Boyang, was a first-order Emperor Realm Master. There were also many masters in Flying Saint Palace, including protectors Gao Shan and Lu Shui. How could Flying Saint Palace let it slide when their young palace master was beaten to a pulp? Everyone looked at Yang Kai with not only a strong sense of fear, but also taking pleasure in his misfortune, thinking that a man as bold and boundless as him was destined to get into trouble. You dare hit me? Ning Yuanshu, who was still held by Yang Kai, his cheek so swollen the pain was numbing, ogled at Yang Kai and muttered in disbelief. Yang Kai sneered. Dare? I've already hit you. This young master is... I know. The young palace master of Flying Saint Palace. Yang Kai cut him off and continued slapping him. He smiled at Qin Zhaoyang. This boy is quite interesting. He doesn't forget about his home even after being beaten silly. It's as if he doesn't have any identity without his background. While speaking, he lifted Ning Yuanshu high and shouted, Come one. Come all. Everyone have a look. This is the famous Flying Saint Palace young palace master Ning Yuanshu. Remember his face well. The cultivators around thought. Everyone saw you beating him to a pulp. How could we not remember? Ning Yuanshu roared as his blood seemed to flow backwards from his rage, resulting in him coughing up large mouthfuls of it. He had an extraordinary background and was spoiled and doted on since he was a child, never suffering the slightest insult. But today, he had been slapped across the face repeatedly by Yang Kai in front of a massive crowd. Although he spat blood, he did not faint, which at least proved his will wasn't weak. Qin Zhaoyang smiled bitterly and did not know what to say to Yang Kai, but secretly sighing. He felt that young people today were indeed high-spirited and uninhibited. It almost reminded him of his own youth. Xiao! Two beams of lights suddenly flew over from up ahead. These two newcomers were giving off slightly unsteady auras, as if they were escaping from a battle. Ah! Young palace master. The lights stopped a short distance away from Yang Kai and the others, revealing protectors Gao Shan and Lu Shui. The two elders of Flying Saint Palace looked quite embarrassed at the moment. Their white hair and beards frazzled, their clothes torn. Gao Shan held a Guqin-like artifact in his arms, but the light coming from it was quite dim. It seemed the spirituality of his artifact had taken damage. The same was true for Lu Shui's flute on his waist. The two of them could not fathom what happened as they came from the opposite direction and were shocked to see the state of Ning Yuanshu. Left and right protectors. When Ning Yuanshu saw Gao Shan and Lu Shui, his eyes flashed with madness as he ground his teeth and shouted, Quickly avenge this young master. Kill this bastard. You did this. Gao Shan stared at Yang Kai coldly. Lu Shui's face was gloomy as lifted up his flute and without saying a word poured his source qi into it. Yang Kai turned a deaf ear to these two old men and instead looked at their backs with his squinted eyes. A moment later his expression turning into a solemn frown. Release the young master. Seeing Yang Kai ignoring them, Gao Shan shouted in furious anger. At the same time, Lu Shui flickered and appeared suddenly beside Yang Kai, his flute artifact in hand. Brother Yang, be careful. Qin Zhaoyang was shocked. With his cultivation and eyesight, he could not see exactly how Lu Shui approached Yang Kai, and it was far too late to warn him about it. Yang Kai laughed and ignored Lu Shui's attack, however, simply moving Ning Yuanshu in his hand in the direction of the incoming strike, completely using the young palace master as a shield. Lu Shui furrowed his brow and withdrew his attack before swiftly returning to Gao Shan's side. Gao Shan wore a gloomy look as he slowly strummed the guqin in his arms with one hand. A clear and uplifting melody instantly spread out, forcing the nearby cultivators to circulate their source qi to protect themselves from the sound waves. Boy! What has Flying Saint Palace done to you to provoke such a vicious assault against the young palace master? Gao Shan asked while strumming his guqin. That's what I'd like to know. Yang Kai held Ning Yuanshu in front of him, only poking half his head out from behind him as he snickered. You'll have to ask your young palace master about this. He just suddenly attacked me, so I just fought back. Ning Yuanshu's eyes were filled with hatred as he wanted to resist, but found himself completely suppressed, unable to even circulate his source qi. Gritting his teeth, he shouted, "Left and right protectors, this person is that brat surnamed Yang who might have killed my eldest brother. We must capture him and bring him back to the sect for interrogation." Huh? He's the boy surnamed Yang. Gao Shan and Lu Shui were shocked when they heard this, suddenly recalling they had not asked his name when they saw Yang Kai in the Qin family earlier. "I killed your elder brother?" Yang Kai asked, his mind turning quickly and quickly realizing Ning Yuanshu why attacked him. "Believe it or not, the death of your brother has nothing to do with me. Although he destroyed Ning Yuancheng's body, the true culprit behind his death was the wood spirit. The wood spirit seed had exploded in Ning Yuancheng's body, causing him to completely lose his vitality. What Yang Kai killed was nothing more than a shell for the wood spirit soul clone. So, Ning Yuancheng's death really had nothing to do with him. This is not something you can settle with a single statement. If you are smart enough, you will follow us back to the sect and obediently submit to Sir Palace Master's judgment." Gao Shan shouted. Yang Kai sneered, "And I should follow you just because you said so? How disgraceful would that be? And, is it really okay for you two to stand here leisurely? The one pursuing you is about to arrive." Many people were confused by his words. Gao Shan and Lu Shui's faces, however, changed drastically as they turned to look back quickly. Wang. There was a sudden tremor in space as a powerful coercion arrived from the horizon, sweeping across the crowd, anchoring all the cultivators present in place, as if a giant mountain had been dropped on their shoulders. The rubble and soil on the ground slowly rose up amongst the inexplicable pressure, the scene simply unimaginable. What is this? Could it be that an emperor has come? Ah, this is bad, we're going to die. Ning Yuanshu was wounded, and he was bleeding terribly, his white clothes now dyed red by his own blood, making for a shocking scene. This is... The round-faced woman, together with the other disciples from Eight Paths sect who had followed after Yang Kai and Qin Zhaoyang, stared off into the distance, their faces warping in fear. At the edge of the sky, a figure appeared. He was wrapped in an indescribable energy and a powerful, violent aura rumbled around him, causing all present to shudder. The world collapsed and turned upside down wherever this person passed. This newcomer's aura was so intense that it was in no way inferior to an Emperor Realm Master's. Amidst the chaotic energy, only a pair of bright eyes shone through with cold excitement, making those who were gazed upon feel as if they had been thrown into a winter blizzard. This person, surprisingly, was Luo Yuan from Eight Paths sect. It was unknown what had happened between Gao Shan, Lu Shui, and Luo Yuan when the three of them flew out of the city to fight. But now Luo Yuan was chasing after Gao Shan and Lu Shui like they were stray dogs. TSK, TSK. This aura. Yang Kai made a sound with a look of admiration. It is rare to not lose one's consciousness after releasing such power. Whatever secret technique he was cultivating is impressive. I wonder if he succeeded in mastering it now. Previously, Luo Yuan said that he was trying to comprehend some kind of secret technique, but had run into a bottleneck. As such, he wanted to fight with Yang Kai, but Yang Kai had instead pushed this trouble onto Gao Shan and Lu Shui. At this stage, Luo Yuan should not be far from successfully comprehending this new secret technique. Even Yang Kai had never seen a profound technique that could allow one's aura to rise to the level of an emperor despite still being a Dao Source Realm cultivator. Luo Yuan was still far away, but in the blink of an eye, he arrived. No one was able to see how he moved. Not good. Gao Shan and Lu Shui must have suffered a big loss at Luo Yuan's hands. Otherwise, they would not have fled in embarrassment. At this moment, they were so afraid that they would, obviously, not wait quietly for this madman to show up in front of them. The two exchanged a knowing glance before one raised his flute to his lips and the other plucked his guqin, sending out shocking music from their instruments. The souls of many cultivators present were sent into a daze. Gao Shan and Lu Shui flanked Yang Kai on the left and right in an instant. Lu Shui raised his flute horizontally and directed it to Yang Kai's head before blowing into it. Gao Shan strummed his guqin sharply at the same time with all 5 of his fingers, unleashing an invisible slash towards Yang Kai. Ha ha ha! Yang Kai laughed sarcastically. Since you want this back so badly, I'll return it to you. As he spoke, his hand shook slightly and he threw Ning Yuanshu, who was still in his grasp, towards the guqin's slash. How is that possible? Not good. Gao Shan and Lu Shui exclaimed in shock, their faces palling abruptly. Gao Shan and Lu Shui were the left and right protectors of Flying Saint Palace. Their cultivation and abilities were just below those of Palace Master Ning Boyang. If the two of them teamed up, they could even fight a few rounds with an ordinary Emperor Realm Master. But right now, the confidence of these two old men had been crushed. First, Luo Yuan from Eight Paths sect had beaten them senseless and sent them scurrying like stray dogs despite it being 2-on-1. Then, it was Yang Kai who completely ignored their combined attack. What is happening with young people nowadays? It's ridiculous that each and every one of them is acting so rampantly and have the skills to back up their arrogance. Secretly, they could not help feeling old all of a sudden. Seeing Ning Yuanshu thrown out by Yang Kai towards the sound wave slash, the faces of Gao Shan and Lu Shui changed drastically. If Ning Yuanshu died under their attack, there was no way they could explain themselves to Ning Boyang. Following a shout, Lu Shui stored away his flute, then used a profound movement skill to appear directly in front of Ning Yuanshu. Using his bare back, Li Shui blocked the sound wave slash while simultaneously grabbing hold of Ning Yuanshu. Pooh! The slash hit Lu Shui's body, causing him to stagger forward. It was obvious that he was injured as fresh blood began leaking from the corner of his mouth. You court death. Lu Shui was enraged after he had suffered such a big loss and glared sharply at Yang Kai. Ha ha ha! Yang Kai said nothing and just laughed wickedly. Not good. We need to bring the young palace master out of here, Gao Shan quickly bellowed. Lu Shui was also aware that they should not remain here any longer as Luo Yuan would soon catch up. In the distance, Luo Yuan could be seen with his arms stretched up towards the heavens, as if he was trying to lift them above his head, the surrounding clouds swirling about him as an unimaginable pressure radiated from his body. The faces of all the cultivators present turned pale at this sight. On the other side, Gao Shan and Lu Shui's bodies flickered as they swiftly fled into the distance. When they left, they did not forget to leave some ruthless words behind though. Little brat, I advise you to come to the palace to offer a humble apology and accept punishment, because you would not be able to escape from us even if you ran to the ends of the earth. If you have any guts, don't run, Yang Kai shouted, cupping his hands around his mouth. Of course, Gao Shan and Lu Shui ignored him and disappeared. The next moment, Luo Yuan's figure suddenly appeared in front of everyone. Looking closely at Luo Yuan, his current state gave everyone a chill. A rich and substantive energy formed a vortex swirling around his body, one that seemed to be disrupting the local world principles. Everywhere he passed, space collapsed and numerous void cracks flitted about. Of course, this damage was being repaired as quickly as it was caused as more world principles flooded in towards the area. Many cultivators who came here immediately moved back and did not dare to get within a 1,000-meter range of Luo Yuan. Yang Kai's expression turned solemn too as he stared at Luo Yuan indifferently. Luo Yuan's aura was at its peak right now, but he was also covered in blood from head to toe. It could be seen that during the previous battle with the two old men, Gao Shan and Lu Shui, Luo Yuan did not really have the upper hand. However, although his appearance was quite miserable right now, the fire in his eyes was still burning brightly. "Senior brother Luo?" the round-faced woman stuttered, feeling pained about Luo Yuan's condition. Luo Yuan did not turn his eyes to her but instead glanced at Yang Kai. From that gaze, Yang Kai could see a strong fighting intent. He hurriedly said, "Brother Luo, you shouldn't do things half-heartedly and should always finish what you started. Those two ran just now, so shouldn't you chase after them to settle this once and for all?" While speaking, he pointed towards a certain direction for Luo Yuan. Luo Yuan looked at him for a long while, then nodded slightly. "It won't be too late to wait until your cultivation has improved a little before we battle." After that, Luo Yuan flew off to pursue Gao Shan and Lu Shui. After he left, a number of gasps sounded as everyone breathed a sigh of relief, like a big rock had been lifted from their chests, all of them looking around, feeling lucky for having survived this calamity. Among the crowd, there was one man, however, who was quietly trying to sneak away. But before he could take a second step, he suddenly felt a chill down his back and his face drastically changed as he looked behind himself. Who? In front of his eyes was a short and sloppy fat man, with a rosy nose and a flushed face, breathing out a warm breath. Zhuang Pan was caught off guard and inhaled most of that hot breath. His face could not help turning red as he took a few steps back with his mouth covered with his hands. There was an irritating sound coming from his throat and it seemed that he was about to retch, but luckily, his cultivation was still good enough for him to suppress that nausea. The short fat man looked at him with a grin, then lifted his huge green bottle gourd and took a swig of it, finally ending with a loud burp. "Drunkard!" Zhuang Pan's face turned ugly while looking at him. When he saw a man come out from behind Drunkard's back, his face turned even uglier and the corner of his mouth twitched. "Sir City Lord!" Duan Yuan Shan snorted coldly. "I'm surprised that you still remember this. Duan is the city lord here. How thoughtful of you, Deacon Zhuang." At this moment, Duan Yuan Shan felt unspeakable joy as if he could finally vent out all the resentment in him. Zhuang Pan forced a smile and replied, "Sir City Lord, you must be joking. This Zhuang worked under Sir City Lord for several dozen years. How could he have forgotten this?" "Really?" Duan Yuan Shan looked at him from the corner of his eyes and sneered. "But I saw that Deacon Zhuang had forgotten about this for the past few days." "There is no such thing," Zhuang Pan denied and explained. "The things that happened a few days ago, I have my reasons." Just as he was still speaking, Qin Zhaoyang suddenly appeared beside Zhuang Pan with a flicker of his body, forming a triangle with Duan Yuan Shan and Drunkard, surrounding Zhuang Pan. Zhuang Pan was just a first-order Dao Source Realm cultivator, so when he saw these three glaring at him unkindly, not knowing what they were going to do with him, he was so terrified his legs trembled and he yelled, "What do you want to do? Don't forget that this Zhuang is not the Vice City Lord of Maplewood City anymore, but a deacon of Flying St. Palace." As soon as he said this, the three men frowned and showed a look of hesitation. Zhuang Pan was nothing to them, and if they teamed up, he would definitely die here. Even if they were to each act alone, they would not be at a disadvantage here. However, the current status of Zhuang Pan was the source of their fear. A deacon in Flying St. Palace was nothing impressive, but it was also not a low position either. After all, it was still a post that represented Flying St. Palace's face. As such, if the three of them really killed Zhuang Pan in front of this crowd, word would soon spread to Flying St. Palace. Qin Zhaoyang had to protect the Qin family, while Duan Yuan Shan and Drunkard still had to look after Maplewood City. If they really offended Flying St. Palace due to this matter, their good days would come to an end. Seeing the change of their expression, the cowardliness of Zhuang Pa was swept away and he laughed loudly with a grin. "City Lord Duan, I'm quite nervous having you three stare at me so menacingly. Could you please not be so fierce with your faces?" His words were full of teasing and mocking, and it embarrassed the three of them. While talking, Zhuang Pan took 2 steps forward, patted Drunkard's big belly and made fun of him. "Drunk old man, you should cut back on the wine a bit. You used to be a handsome young lord in Maplewood City, But what have you become after all these years? If those women who admired you before saw you now, they would be so heartbroken. Drunkard remained silent, simply continuing to lift up his bottle as he took another mouthful of wine. Zhuang Pan then cast his sight on Qin Zhaoyang. Old ghost Qin. Isn't it difficult to support the Qin family on your own? Have you ever wondered what would happen if you were gone one day? What kind of fate would befall your Qin family? What would happen to Qin Yu? As soon as he said this, Qin Zhaoyang's face changed abruptly. Qin Yu was always Qin Zhaoyang's biggest weakness and also his reverse scale. So Zhuang Pan's words had clearly lit up the fire in him. Zhuang Pan chuckled. Those who know how to act according to the circumstances are the wisest. Why not consider joining Flying Saint Palace now? This deacon may be able to recommend you. Humph! Qin Zhaoyang heavily snorted. Can't appreciate kindness. The smiling face of Zhuang Pan darkened when he saw Qin Zhaoyang giving him that face. Turning to Duan Yuanshan next. City Lord Duan. The purpose of this Zhuang accompanying young palace master here to Maplewood City this time was to invite City Lord Duan to join Flying Saint Palace in order to complete a certain important matter. I wonder what City Lord Duan's thinks of this. Maplewood City was a small city that was not rich in products or resources, so before now, none of the great forces had the intention to control this place. However, recently, the city had become a prize worth fighting over with the discovery of a source crystal lode and a number of earth veins nearby. Duan Yuanshan happened to be the city lord of Maplewood City, so if he was willing to join Flying Saint Palace, Maplewood City would become a protectorate of Flying Saint Palace, allowing it to rightfully claim the source crystal lode and earth veins. For those other forces that wanted to harvest these resources, they would then have to weigh their own strength and confidence before contesting them. After listening to Zhuang Pan's question, Duan Yuanshan kept quiet with a cold face. Zhuang Pan sneered. City Lord Duan. This opportunity is right in front of you. Don't let it slip through your fingertips. This Zhuang knows that City Lord Duan has spent his whole life cultivating, but has reached his limit at the second-order Dao source realm. Do you not want to go further? If you can obtain some guidance from Sir Palace Master, perhaps you would still have a chance to break through to the third order. Hearing this, Duan Yuanshan shivered and his eyes gleamed. But soon, he regained his calm expression and snorted coldly. It is impossible for this Duan to join Flying Saint Palace. Zhuang Pan jumped up in anger and reprimanded. Duan Yuanshan, don't force me to get tough with you. Go away and don't show your face in Maplewood City ever again. Otherwise, don't blame this Duan for being impolite with you. This was the limit to his patience. Duan Yuanshan could not hold back his murderous intent and let Zhuang Pan leave in peace for much longer. Given Zhuang Pan's previous desertion in the middle of the battle, Duan Yuanshan killing him 10 times over here and now would not be enough. Furthermore, this time, after Zhuang Pan returned to Maplewood City with Ning Yuanshu, he had been taking advantage of the influence of others to constantly pressure and ridicule him and Drunkard. If Zhuang Pan had not taken refuge in Flying Saint Palace, forcing Duan Yuanshan to fear reprisals from the latter, how could he easily let such a villain posture like this in front of him? Impolite! Zhuang Pan sneered. And just how will you treat me impolitely? This deacon is really curious to know how City Lord Duan will follow through on his threat. Beat me then. Beat me if you dare. Zhuang Pan put his face in front of Duan Yuanshan and the others and blatantly provoked them. The cultivators all around shook their heads with disdain. These foreign cultivators were basically meeting Zhuang Pan for the first time and knew nothing about him before today. But the attitude and behavior of a man could be easily seen when he spoke like this. Zhuang Pan was undoubtedly a type of villain that would kick an opponent when they were down, the type of person everyone despises. The patriarchs from the few big families in Maplewood City who rushed here revealed their sad expressions as they were sympathetic to Duan Yuanshan's plight. Over the years, the big families had been under the management of the city lord's mansion, and although there were some frictions and conflicts between them, there were no big fights or wars. In fact, the city lord's mansion had mostly served as a buffer between the big families, earning it the respect of these families. Seeing the city lord, vice city lord, and the patriarch from the Qin family being bullied and disdained by Zhuang Pan at this moment, it was natural that those patriarch would feel uncomfortable. Pa! A crisp sound suddenly resounded. Everyone was dumbfounded as cold sweat formed on their foreheads, wondering to themselves if Sir City Lord had really lost his temper and acted rashly. With doubt, they turned and looked. The scene they saw stunned them. They saw a figure standing in front of Zhuang Pan, cracking his neck and palming his fist, as if he was getting ready to fight. Who? Who dares to strike me? Zhuang Pan was stunned by the slap just now. He felt half of his cheek swell up and go numb. His head had been struck sideways, so he couldn't see who had slapped him immediately. So he immediately shouted hysterically as he turned his face back. Who dare? Mid-shout, his eyes met with Yang Kai's grinning face and suddenly felt like he was being stared at by a vicious beast. This brought a chill to Zhuang Pan's back as he forcefully choked down the ruthless words he was about to say. Interesting. While speaking, Yang Kai gave another slap again. Pa! With another crisp sound, Zhuang Pan's other cheek swelled up as several bloody teeth flew from his mouth. Yang Kai grabbed Zhuang Pan's collar with one hand, fixing him in place, then proceeded to slap Zhuang Pan's face continuously with his free hand, each time adding a little force to his blow, the source chi on his palm growing more and more vigorous. Pa pa pa. Rhythmic and crisp music played out above the empty wilderness. This is the first time. Yang Kai kept on slapping his face while sneering at him. I've heard someone wish to be beaten so badly. I simply had no choice but to oblige. All the cultivators felt pain from looking at the scene and could not help touching their own cheeks. Zhuang Pan was completely dumbfounded, and it took a long time for him to recover. When he did, he struggled violently to free himself from Yang Kai's grip. But a man with just a first-order Dao Source Realm cultivation like him could not possibly achieve this. So he remained completely suppressed by Yang Kai's source chi. In despair, Zhuang Pan cried loudly and begged for mercy. Senior Yang, stop, stop, don't beat me anymore. Senior Yang, I know my mistake. I really know. Please let go of me. I apologize to you. I'm a deacon of Flying St. Palace. Quickly release me. Bastard. You can kill me, but you can't humiliate me. I will go all out on you if you keep doing this. Whoa. Senior Yang, please spare my life. I don't want to die. The cultivators around watched this scene and heard every single word from Zhuang Pan. All of them openly despising him now for his lack of spine, honestly thinking his death would not be worth pitying. After several dozen slaps, Zhuang Pan's face no longer resembled that of a human. Previously during the fight, Yang Kai did not try to kill Ning Yuanshu due to his unique identity, and because he had a father who was an Emperor Realm Master. Yang Kai did not want to cause unnecessary trouble for himself. But it was different with Zhuang Pan. Every slap from Yang Kai sent bursts of source chi into Zhuang Pan's meridians, snapping and breaking them along the way. In other words, even if Zhuang Pan survived this time, he would become a cripple without any cultivation and unable to cultivate anymore. Little brother Yang. Duan Yuanshan could not bear the miserable look of Zhuang Pan. Forget it. Being a coward is in his nature. In the end, he did not cause us any losses, so just give him a quick mercy. Drunkard made a burp, his eyes gleaming with cold light as he said, beat the snake to death to avoid it climbing up your stick. Allowing a tiger back to the mountains would only breed calamity for the future. While speaking, he suddenly reached out his hand and grabbed the top of Zhuang Pan's head. Yang Kai squinted, stretched his hand and pushed Drunkard's hand away and smiled. Sir Vice City Lord shouldn't be bothered with such a trivial matter. It was inappropriate for Drunkard to do the dirty job, but not Yang Kai. He had beaten Ning Yuanshu up before, so how could killing Zhuang Pan be worse than that? In any case, he already had a silent feud with Flying St. Palace, so this act would not change anything. When his words fell, Yang Kai clenched his hand tightly and poured his source chi into Zhuang Pan before tossing him out. Ah! Zhuang Pan yelled miserably, but his scream ceased abruptly when his body exploded, turning into a rain of blood, showering down on the ground. The surrounding cultivators kept silent like a cicada in the winter. However, when they recalled the moment when Yang Kai killed the Vice Valley Master of Evil Moon Valley, they secretly felt that this scene in front of them was not a big deal. Duan Yuanshan and Drunkard simultaneously cast their grateful eyes at Yang Kai. thanking him for cleaning up Maplewood City's mess. At that moment, the ambient world energy trembled again, and an indescribable feeling suddenly surged forth from the horizon, followed by a muffled sound of thunder and a rumbling from the earth. Everyone was shocked and looked around. Does anyone else feel like the world energy in the air has suddenly become richer? A second-order Tao Source Realm cultivator among the crowd asked. Someone immediately answered, I felt it before, but I thought it was my imagination. Since Brother Lu has sensed it too though, it seems to be real. Since there's a change in the world energy, it's very likely something has happened to the source crystal lodes or the earth veins. As soon as the statement was made, everyone's eyes lit up, and after exchanging a few knowing glances, all of them executed their movement skills and rushed towards the place where the source crystal lode and earth veins were located. Duan Yuanshan and Drunkard were the Lord and Vice Lord of Maplewood City, so obviously they could not just sit back and watch, immediately following after the others after saying goodbye to Yang Kai. Brother Yang. Qin Zhao Yang looked at Yang Kai. It seems that the tremor we sensed before was not triggered by the battle between Luo Yuan and Gao Shan and Louis Shui, but rather because something happened to the earth veins and source crystal lode. It should be. Yang Kai nodded. He also thought the tremor happened because of the battle between Luo Yuan and the two protectors, but right now it seemed that there were other reasons. Would you like to check it out? Qin Zhao Yang asked Yang Kai for his opinion. Of course I have to take a look at such an interesting matter. Yang Kai grinned. Just as he was about to leave, however, he caught a glimpse of Yi Jinghan from the Thousand Leaves sect standing not far away, looking at him quietly. Yang Kai's face darkened. This woman was like a sticky plaster he could not get rid of, which really annoyed him. Acknowledging Yang Kai's annoyed face, Yi Jinghan stepped back some distance, her face filled with sorrow which made it hard to ignore. Let's go! Shouting so, Yang Kai rushed towards the source of the tremor. When the pair arrived, they saw a great glow on the horizon, as well as a gathering of bright clouds high above. The barren wilderness seemed to have been transformed into some kind of paradise at this moment. What's happening? Qin Zhaoyang was puzzled. When demon qi flooded the city, he and Yang Kai had come to this region to assist Qin Yu in reinforcing the ancient seal. Although their plan failed, they did not notice anything unusual about the seal except for a boundless amount of demon qi. However, a few months later, many earth veins and a source crystal lode had surprisingly been found here. Honk! A loud sound burst out at that moment as a massive pit appeared before Yang Kai's eyes. From this pit, an intense beam of light suddenly shot out into the sky. This is... heavens! Can there be such a thing in this world? All the cultivators who came here yelled as they looked up at the beam of light. Using their divine senses, they all immediately discovered the true nature of this phenomenon. This beam of light was actually formed by a convergence of the purest world energy. One so rich it actually began to form into a kind of condensation. Everyone was so astonished that they could not believe their eyes, their faces filling with extreme excitement. The purity and concentration of world energy in this place were astonishing. The cultivators who came here were at best from second-class sects and families which all had their own cultivation paradises, places where the world energy aura was richer and could allow their disciples to cultivate faster. But when everyone compared the world energy in their own cultivation zones to this place, the difference was simply incomparable. Perhaps only the cultivation paradises occupied by peak-level sects could be like this. All of a sudden, the beam of light that soared into the sky burst apart, and an unimaginably rich world energy began to fall down on the surrounding area in tiny droplets. Shi 11 Li Li. In an instant it began to rain. World energy rain. The richness of the world energy in this once barren wilderness rose at an incredible speed. In no time, everyone was standing in what appeared to be a massive spirit qi sea. In less time than it would take to brew a half cup of tea, the surrounding region for several thousand kilometers was covered by this extremely rich spirit qi sea, engulfing many cultivators in it, blocking their vision. Even Maplewood City, which was 2,000 kilometers away, benefited greatly. Countless cultivators rushed to the city walls and looked up full of excitement, opening their arms to welcome the reigning world energy. Hong hong hong. The sound of the invisible shackles being opened came from every corner of Maplewood City, transmitted from the bodies of many cultivators, causing them to tremble and have weird expressions. I made a breakthrough to the second-order origin king realm. I can die in peace now that I have broken the shackles of the origin returning realm. Ha 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 ha. This young master is truly talented, an undefeatable genius, instantly breaking through 3 minor realms straight to the immortal Ascension realm. This young master is truly invincible. The joyful cries of the cultivators filled the air as more and more of them broke through, reaching higher in the martial Tao with the assistance of the dense spirit Qi. Nothing much occurred when breaking through a minor realm within a great realm, but breaking through to a new great realm would always usher in a world energy baptism. As a result, the sky covering Maplewood City soon grew dark, engulfing the entire city in black clouds as if the end was near. Soon after, winds began to gather and bolts of world energy began pouring down from above, striking the bodies of those who had just advanced to the next great realm, washing their bodies and souls. Maplewood City instantly boiled up. However, Xianxia and the others, who were standing just above the ancient seal outside of the city, benefited even more. Each and every Tao Source Realm Master stood frozen with their eyes closed, feeling the richness of world energy around them, opening all their pores in order to absorb this energy, even without consciously circulating their secret art. The ubiquitous world energy continuously poured into their limbs even when they just stood still, making them feel completely relaxed and at ease. A creaking sound came from inside Yang Kai's body, which made his expression strange and immediately excited. "Brother Yang!" Qin Zhao Yang suddenly shouted with difficulty. "What's wrong?" Yang Kai turned his head and looked at Qin Zhao Yang. "This old master can't withstand it anymore." Qin Zhao Yang looked like he was in pain as if he had constipation and suddenly glanced at Yang Kai. "I need to look for a place to quietly break through." Yang Kai raised his brows immediately and said with great joy, "Congratulations, Patriarch Qin." Qin Zhao Yang had shown no signs of breaking through for hundreds of years due to his advanced age. But when he was suddenly enveloped by this dense world energy, it seemed his opportunity had come. Without this opportunity, given Qin Zhao Yang's innate aptitude and age, he would never be able to reach the threshold of the second-order Tao Source Realm until the day he died. If he was able to break through at this time, though, it would be a great blessing to the Qin family, and even to Maplewood City. Qin Zhao Yang smiled bitterly. The timing couldn't be worse, though. The situation here is turbulent at the moment, so this old master will have to ask Brother Yang to stand guard for him for a time. No problem. Yang Kai agreed readily before he began looking around. There were many cultivators present, all of whom showed excited looks as the source qi in their bodies became turbulent. Many seemed to similarly be on the verge of breaking through. "Let's head to the source." Yang Kai grabbed Qin Zhao Yang and rushed forward. There were too many people around at this moment, all of whom were Tao Source Realm, and the impact that occurred during a breakthrough would be very chaotic, so it was not suitable to remain here. Since Qin Zhao Yang showed signs of a breakthrough, it could not be wasted. Therefore, Yang Kai decided to go deep into the tiger's den. The source. Qin Zhao Yang narrowed his eyes but quickly understood what Yang Kai was referring to. Soon, the pair dove into a massive hole in the ground and rushed downwards against the constant upsurge of world energy. Yang Kai's approach was indeed correct. The deeper they dove, the more terrifying the purity and richness of the world energy. The world energy that appeared above ground was amazing enough, but the world energy below the surface was on a completely different scale. With the help of such a vast sea of world energy, Qin Zhao Yang felt that it was simply impossible for him to fail to break through this time. He could not help but feel excited as his face glowed, making him appear several dozen years younger. The two of them fell all the way down for more than 1,000 meters before reaching solid ground. The underground situation was the same as above, a literal lake. However, the water here was not ordinary water, but rather liquid spirit qi. Yang Kai did not intend to linger here and simply looked for a direction before he continued to rush forward. After a long time, he suddenly stopped, looked left and right and said, "Patriarch Qin, you can break through here. No one should come here in a short time." At this moment, Everyone was busy absorbing world energy to prepare for their own breakthrough. So how could they have the mind to explore this underground cave system? So what Yang Kai said made sense. Qin Zhaoyang was afraid that he could not suppress himself anymore, so he simply nodded and sat down cross-legged without another word. Circulating his secret art, he instantly entered a meditative state. Yang Kai waved his hand and summoned 3 beautiful figures before himself. "Sir, what is this place?" Zhang Ruoxi asked, noticing the strangeness around her instantly and couldn't help covering her lips in shock. Hua Qingxi's beautiful eyes also widened as she trembled. Yang Kai, don't tell me you broke into some great sex cultivation paradise without authorization. Lu Yan's dazzling eyes looked around while the corners of her mouth rose slightly to reveal a smile, but she did not comment out loud. Yang Kai smiled and said, "Of course not. The world energy here." Hua Qingxi was shocked. "How is it compared to the cultivation paradises of Star Soul Palace?" Yang Kai asked with interest. "Not far off." Hua Qingxi pondered for a while before groaning. "The cultivation paradise of Soul Palace is divided into 3 levels: heaven, earth, and mortal. Those with my cultivation are only permitted to enter the earth-grade cultivation paradises, and in order to do so, we need to offer a massive number of contribution points to the sect. The world energy here is even denser than in those earth-grade cultivation rooms." "What about heaven-grade?" Yang Kai frowned. "I don't know." Hua Qingxi shook her head and said bitterly, "Only Emperor Realm Masters are allowed to cultivate under such conditions. I am not qualified to enter." Yang Kai gently nodded. "Where is this place? Why is there such rich world energy here?" Hua Qingxi asked again. "It's the land around the ancient seal we visited last time. I don't know what this place's name is, or what lies below, but apparently, a number of earth veins and a source crystal lode suddenly appeared here." Hua Qingxi was stunned when she heard this. She had lost her freedom here in this place after Yang Kai captured her and threw her into his sealed world bead, eventually forcing her to surrender her soul brand. However, because of that, she obtained an extraordinary treasure pill, which greatly increased her chances of breaking through to the Emperor realm. It was hard to say if she had gained or lost from this event. In any case, Hua Qingxi was not upset with her current situation, and she had grown a much friendlier opinion of Yang Kai. Enough nonsense. It would be a shame to let this opportunity slip by. Quickly meditate and cultivate. Absorb as much world energy as you can. Hua Qingxi and Zhang Ruoxi nodded one after another at his words and quickly found a place to sit cross-legged and circulate their secret arts. Hua Qingxi was a disciple of Star Soul Palace and had a powerful third-order Dao Source Realm cultivation. So although she failed miserably in her previous mission and wound up captured by Yang Kai, she was not someone to be underestimated. In a short time, her tender body became a bottomless pit that gathered a steady stream of world energy towards it. Yang Kai looked at her in amazement, secretly admiring the secret arts of Star Soul Palace. Immediately afterwards, something that startled him even more happened. A whistling noise emerged from Zhang Ruoxi's body, one that was created by a strong stream of wind. Instantly, Zhang Ruoxi's petite form also became a bottomless pit that rapidly absorbed the surrounding world energy. Zhang Ruoxi's cultivation aura soared upwards at a speed visible to the naked eye. An abnormal noise soon sounded, and with Zhang Ruoxi's tender body as the center, an invisible wave of pressure pulsed outwards. This, Yang Kai ogled. Ever since her bloodline power began to awaken, Zhang Ruoxi's cultivation speed had increased expeditiously, and the richer the world energy was, the more obvious the effects of her cultivation were. She had no bottlenecks at all. As long as the accumulation of energy was sufficient, she could automatically break through. Even her Shur had easily reached the grand accomplishment stage without any stagnation at all. The scene before him was Zhang Ruoxi easily breaking through to the third-order origin returning realm. Yang Kai was unsure of the condition of this young girl and her mysterious bloodline, but it was undeniable that this underground location was the most suitable place for Zhang Ruoxi's cultivation. Thoughts floated through Yang Kai's mind helplessly. What would it be like if Zhang Ruoxi were to cultivate in the heaven-grade cultivation paradise of Star Soul Palace for several years? Could she directly reach the Emperor realm? Master, you seem to be about to break through too. Lu Yen looked at Yang Kai brightly with her beautiful eyes. Her cultivation was much stronger now and was able to naturally detect the vibrations coming from Yang Kai's body. Yang Kai nodded and responded, "You will need to stand guard at this place." Saying so, Yang Kai reached out his hand and summoned the sealed world bead. After he performed a series of hand seals, the sealed world bead began emitting a huge suction force that drew in the surrounding world energy. The liquid spirit chi nearby surged as streams of water seemed to flow towards the small bead. Tossing the sealed world bead to Lu Yen, Yang Kai said, "Find a place to hide. There are quite a lot of people here." Lu Yen nodded, holding the sealed world bead as her tender body disappeared in a flash, hiding somewhere. However, before she left, Yang Kai saw a hint of envy in her eyes. This couldn't be helped though. Everyone was benefiting from such a wondrous opportunity, but Lu Yen could not, naturally making her feel a bit distraught. Lu Yen did not have a physical body, so apart from swallowing and refining certain exotic flames, she was unable to directly absorb world energy to increase her cultivation. This was the reason why Yang Kai asked her to stand guard. After Lu Yen hid, Yang Kai stretched out his hand again and released his two blood beasts, the monster insect queen and blue flame thunder wolf, which had not been used for a while now. With the improvement of his cultivation, the role these two blood beasts could play was getting lower and lower, especially the blue flame thunder wolf, which was only as strong as a second-order Dao Source Realm cultivator. It was useless against strong enemies, but also unnecessary to use against weak enemies. However, it could be of use here and now. With a pulse of his divine sense, Yang Kai ordered the two blood beasts to conceal themselves nearby before he also sat down with his legs crossed. The fluctuations of his source chi were getting stronger and more prominent, which was a prelude to a breakthrough. Yang Kai focused his mind and ignored all the external influences as he began circulating his secret art. Being here, in this underground, was like sitting on a spirit spring, so even without consciously circulating his secret art, the ambient world energy would unendingly converge towards his body, flooding into his pores and making its way along his meridians to his dantian. As time passed, Yang Kai continued accumulating qi inside himself. At a certain moment, the source qi in his body reached a critical point and a kind of invisible wall that was bearing his path shattered, allowing Yang Kai to take one more step forward. Remaining unflustered, Yang Kai quietly gathered all of his strength and used it to bombard the shackles still holding him back. Honk! With a bang, Yang Kai's body trembled slightly and his face paled, showing a hint of pain on his face. Beyond his expectations, this impact failed to have any effect. This was something that he has rarely encountered since he began cultivating. Yang Kai had only experienced this when he was still very weak, so this failure actually gave him a feeling of nostalgia. Not panicking, Yang Kai simply grinned lightly. This breakthrough was not induced by internal accumulation but instead was triggered by external stimulation, so it was only natural for there to be some difficulties. However, these difficulties could not stop Yang Kai and only further ignited his fighting spirit. Remaining calm and composed, Yang Kai gathered his strength once more. A moment later, he made another attempt. Hong hong hong. Again and again, Yang Kai pushed his source chi, each time enduring a sharp pain in his body and soul that would render an ordinary man unconscious. If he were to give up now, though, his martial heart would be damaged, and making further progress in the future would become impossible. Countless cultivators started to doubt themselves because they were unable to bear this pain and became demoralized. The only way for the cultivators to reach the peak was to persist. The unceasing pain did not diminish Yang Kai's confidence, nor did it cause him to panic. All it did was reinforce his will. Tao begets one, one begets two, two begets three, three forms the basis for everything. Fate is made by oneself, the state is born from the heart, everything is transformed from form, and everything lives among the world. Illusions are born from the heart, and extinguished by the heart. A trace of comprehension leisurely appeared in Yang Kai's mind as he reached a kind of enlightened state. A layer of formless force lingered around his body, transforming into a kind of ethereal power that ground away at the shackles holding him down, while at the same time smashing the ceiling above him. allowing Yang Kai to step out into a wider world. Honglong, a visible wave of source qi, with Yang Kai's body as its center, suddenly spread out in all directions, and the aura of a second-order Dao Source Realm Master instantly filled the air. Yang Kai did not move at all as a strange feeling was born in his heart. His soul avatar seemed to emerge from his figure at that moment and slowly float up above his body, capturing everything underneath with its eyes. Yang Kai clearly saw Lu Yen hiding nearby, holding the sealed world bead as liquid spirit qi flowed into it, bolstering its world energy. Perhaps, due to some inexplicable connection between Yang Kai and Lu Yen, her beautiful eyes looked up in the direction of Yang Kai in bewilderment as she formed a slight frown on her face. Yang Kai saw Hua Qingxi inhaling world energy madly, laying a solid foundation for her breakthrough to the Emperor realm. Turning his attention towards Zhang Ruoxi, Yang Kai saw that her cultivation was steadily increasing. Within just this short period of time, she had already reached the Origin King realm and was now experiencing a world energy baptism. Just like the last time when Zhang Ruoxi broke through to the Origin Returning realm in the Four Seasons realm, the huge female phantom appeared behind her as she reached a new great realm. This phantom was giant, white, and hazy, but looking at its silhouette, it was clearly a beautiful woman. This woman had a graceful figure and was holding a giant sword in front of her in both hands. She had a pair of beautiful eyes as mesmerizing as stars, sending Yang Kai's divine sense into a trance with just one glance. The giant phantom opened her mouth and breathed in suddenly, absorbing all the world energy which had gathered in the sky for a baptism, then withdrew into Zhang Ruoxi's body. The young girl broke through to the Origin King realm just like that, without any obstacles or danger. Yang Kai also witnessed many Dao Source Realm Masters breaking through their own bottlenecks. Some of them laughed crazily while others were focused on trying to break free from their shackles to reach the next minor realm. Yang Kai's soul avatar continued to float up and rose several thousand meters in an instant. Lifting his eyes, Yang Kai was able to see Maplewood City 2,000 kilometers away. At this moment, the city was buzzing in excitement, looking extremely lively and magnificent. In the sky, many clusters of gathering world energy had turned into visible clouds and were baptizing the ones who were attempting to break through to new great realms. From time to time, someone would break through successfully and roar victoriously. Yang Kai gazed farther away as his soul avatar continued to rise. Soon, Maplewood City had become a small black dot, and when Yang Kai looked upward, the night sky was full of twinkling stars, forming various constellations. In the darkness, the world principles of the star boundary seemed to be within reach. Yang Kai's face changed as he reached out his hand to the surrounding world and tried to grab hold of these mysterious principles. It seemed like he had caught nothing, but at the same time also like he was able to touch something. Yang Kai was confused, but at that moment, a formless world force abruptly plunged down from the sky and landed on top of Yang Kai's head, bringing with it unimaginable force and terrifying destructive energy. Not good, Yang Kai exclaimed, pushing his soul hard as he hastily descended back to his physical body. Honk! The world force followed him closely and crashed onto him. As if he was struck by lightning, Yang Kai's face changed drastically and his source qi shook uncontrollably. Pooh! He spat out a puff of golden blood from his mouth and his aura was instantly weakened. However, his eyes remained as bright as the stars. What was that? Yang Kai lifted his head and grinned towards the heavens. Is this some kind of warning that one cannot peek at world principles before they obtain enough strength? He was confident that if it was not for the world principle suppression, he would have been able to catch a glimpse of the truth behind principle strength. If that was the case, he would have been able to utilize principle strength directly, which was ordinarily a privilege only Emperor Realm Masters possessed. Unfortunately, he was hindered by the world principles at the last moment and fell short. It seemed the world itself was forbidding him from achieving success ahead of time. However, that didn't mean Yang Kai gained nothing from this experience. After a round of swearing, Yang Kai bowed his head again and opened his hands. As he moved his fingers about, space principles began to gather around his hand and numerous tiny void cracks flowed across his fingertips like little living creatures swimming around his palm. Yang Kai found that his ability to motivate the surrounding space principles was much higher now than before. Just as he flicked his fingers, those numerous tiny void cracks flew out like darts, plunged into the surrounding stone walls, carving cracks into many of them. Yang Kai grinned, and there was a trace of satisfaction on his face. Back then, he could not manipulate space principles to such a subtle degree, but now he could do so easily. This kind of attack was still weaker compared to his moon blade in terms of power, but it was harder for the enemies to evade. As such, it would be more effective than moon blade in some situations. Next, Yang Kai immediately examined his own cultivation and realized he had already made a breakthrough to the second-order Dao source realm. He finally put down the last worries in his heart and began taking some pills. Although the impact of the world force just now did not hurt him too much, he still could not ignore it. Who knows if this kind of injury would have any side effects? So it was better to get it treated as soon as possible. While Yang Kai was healing himself, Qin Zhaoyang had already gathered his own power to its peak, and soon his body shook as a wave of source qi spread out from him. At the same time, his aura rose up and his robes flapped loudly. In the next moment, the wrinkles on Qin Zhaoyang's face faded away slowly as he relaxed. In an instant, he seemed to become a dozen years younger and his complexion gradually became rosy. Even his head full of white hair began to show some black streaks in it now. Second-order Dao source realm. Qin Zhaoyang made a breakthrough too. He did not rush to open his eyes and instead continued to sit in place, absorbing the surrounding world energy to consolidate his cultivation. Time passed slowly. At a certain moment, a cultivator who was at a critical point in his breakthrough suddenly frowned suspiciously. A moment later, the aura coming from his body abruptly deflated like a punctured balloon. After such a change, he instantly opened his eyes and yelled in anger, "What's wrong? I was on the verge of breaking through just now. Why did the surrounding world energy suddenly decrease?" He only began to break through here due to the richness of the surrounding world energy. So when that same world energy density lowered, he was unable to reach a critical point, causing his breakthrough to fail. "Brother Liu, is it the same for you?" A man nearby spoke. "I thought it was just me. Something's not right. The surrounding world energy was overflowing crazily just now, so how could it drop so low all of a sudden? Even if a few Emperor Realm Masters appeared, they could not possibly have absorbed such a massive volume of world energy in such a short time. Is there some bastard down below blocking the spirit spring?" Another voice spoke out. "Speaking of it, I thought I saw someone jump down there. Maybe that's why. Who is this wicked bastard? This is too much. Let's go and check. If I find that person, I'll make him suffer for this. How dare he stop me from breaking through?" 1,000 meters underground, Yang Kai stood up. While this was a rare opportunity to cultivate, and it would be difficult to encounter such rich world energy in the future, Yang Kai did not intend to waste time simply cultivating here, and instead was determined to investigate what the root cause of this phenomenon was. What's more, he had just made a breakthrough and would not be able to break through again in a short period. Sending Lu Yen a divine sense message, Yang Kai asked her to continue protecting the others in their group before he began his own investigation. Soon, something caught Yang Kai's eye and he was about to take a closer look, when suddenly he frowned and turned to look in the direction of the entrance. A vast crowd had gathered, and it seemed like many cultivators had found their way here, underground. "There's someone over there. There really was someone who came down ahead of us. Bastard. He must be the one who interfered with my breakthrough. Let's go and find out who has such courage." The sound of loud chattering reached Yang Kai and he quickly released his divine sense to investigate the surrounding situation. Soon, he discovered the problem. The surrounding world energy had become a little bit thinner than before. Although the difference wasn't obvious, it was noticeable. Perceiving this, Yang Kai could not help turning his head to look at Lu Yan's hiding place, unsure if it was because the sealed world bead was devouring world energy. This slight difference was not to be underestimated. It was very likely that this little change had prevented these cultivators from reaching a critical point in their breakthrough and had thus drawn so many of them down here to search for the cause. Yang Kai hurriedly stretched out his hand to retrieve Lu Yen and the sealed world bead to avoid anyone catching them absorbing the world energy. Then he stood there waiting quietly. Boy, no matter which sect you are from, you're dead this time. Come over and apologize if you're smart. Maybe I will spare you your life. This old lady will fight you for taking away my precious opportunity to break through. A group of people protested, putting the blame all on Yang Kai, approaching him quickly. After a while, a group of people stopped in front of Yang Kai. Ah, it's you. This. All the cultivators who were yelling fell silent when they saw Yang Kai and stood in place with cold sweat on their foreheads, showing anxious looks on their faces. The memory of Yang Kai killing Chu Huairen and murdering Zhuang Pan was still vivid in their minds, and all were fearful of provoking Yang Kai. All of them felt horrified about protesting without understanding the situation and were unsure if they had angered this monster. Need something? Yang Kai looked at a group of people indifferently, his words cold. No. It's nothing. We just came down to have a look. Ha ha ha. The scenery below is good. That's right. We were just curious to have a look. Really? Yang Kai raised the corners of his mouth and said lightly, since the scenery is good, you shouldn't miss it. You should all take a walk and look around. Yes. We'll go now. Not a single person dared to stop at the sight of his cold expression. They proceeded quickly and headed deeper. Just before leaving, many stared in the direction where Hua Qingxi sat. With the strength of everyone present, it was natural for them to sense Hua Qingxi's cultivation realm. It was not shocking that they sensed her third-order Dao source realm aura, though, as there were several others with equivalent cultivations. What was noticeable, however, was the inexplicable aura lingering about her. Emperor intent. Amazingly, they could sense Emperor intent coming from Hua Qingxi, a sign she was on the verge of reaching the Emperor realm. In other words, this woman was very likely to break through to the Emperor realm in the future. Undoubtedly, it would cause everyone to be shocked and envious. They did not know if Hua Qingxi had Emperor intent before now, or if she only achieved it by cultivating here in this rich world energy environment. With the presence of such a master here, being protected by this madman Yang Kai, no one dared to remain. It didn't take long for everyone to scatter. After they left, Yang Kai released Lu Yen again and had her remain here to stand guard. Immediately afterwards, Yang Kai moved deeper as well. The more he ventured inside, the richer the world energy became. As if in some unknowable place down below, world energy was gushing forth from some kind of source. Yang Kai could not help being curious, wondering what could create such a surge of world energy like this. Those cultivators who left before him were not far ahead. Suddenly, someone called out in shock up ahead, followed by many similar gasps. They seemed to have discovered something extraordinary. Yang Kai's expression changed, and pushing the surrounding space principles, he disappeared in a flash and reappeared beside everyone. In the blink of an eye, he appeared at the head of the crowd. Following the gazes of the others, Yang Kai could not help but squint at what he saw. Not far in front of him was a round pit covering a 5-meter radius, and from this pit liquid spirit chi was gushing up into the air. Spirit spring. Heavens, it's a spirit spring eye. I can't believe there's a spirit spring eye here. No wonder the world energy is so rich here. It's all thanks to this spirit spring. It should be a mid-rank spirit spring. If a sect was established here, it would rise to prominence within 100 years. Everyone present was from a second-class family or sect, so none of their forces owned a treasure like a spirit spring. Only the first-class sects were qualified to occupy such a treasure land. Everyone was excited, their eyes brightening as they thought about what kind of earth-shaking changes would occur if they could migrate their sect here to occupy this spirit spring. It was possible that in less than 100 years they would be able to rise to compete with first-class sects. Now, I'm afraid there will be trouble, someone said sadly with a heavy sigh. What does this friend mean? There is a spirit spring right in front of us. So why are you saying trouble will come? Someone asked, unable to comprehend. That's right. Why are you acting so sullen with such a heaven-sent opportunity before you? Some sneered. The speaker did not argue back and simply sighed. Have you ever thought about why until now, despite a high-rank earth vein and a source crystal lode appearing near Maplewood City, no top-tier sect came to investigate? Why? because even though it is a high-rank earth vein and a source crystal lode, it's not worth those big sects fighting over. Only small sects like ours will regard them as treasures. Exactly. The man looked around. But what if news of this spirit spring spreads out? With that, everyone was dumbfounded and their expressions changed slightly, finally understanding the situation. If the news of a spirit spring spread out, none of them would be able to claim this place, as the top forces would definitely send masters to occupy this land, possibly even opening up branches of their sects here. The second-class families and sects would simply be unable to fight against these behemoths and would be forced to watch this delicious meal be snatched away from them. Considering all this, everyone was suddenly depressed, their earlier excitement and joy dissipating entirely. We could all swear an oath, on pain of a heart demon, to never spread this news out. Someone suggested quietly. Everyone glanced at the speaker, as if they were looking at an idiot, their eyes full of mockery. There were no impervious walls in this world, and no matter how well they concealed the matter of the spirit spring, it was impossible to hide it forever. One day it would become known to those top sects. Besides, many cultivators were allies with or even subjects of big sects here, so they would send word to their backers after discovering this treasure. How could this discovery be hidden for long? It was just a suggestion. The man who proposed quickly realized that it would not work and smiled helplessly. At this moment, there was an explosion and a gush of liquid spirit chi shot up from the sky, transforming into world energy rain that poured down on the surroundings. What happened? Heavens, are you kidding me? It's another spirit spring. Everyone was stunned for a moment, gawking at a spot some 50 meters away from where another spirit spring had just appeared, liquid spirit chi bursting out of it like a fountain. The world energy aura underground became richer in an instant. Yang Kai too stood dumbfounded. Spirit springs were naturally formed and could only be encountered by chance. It would already be a great stroke of fortune for a big sect to occupy a single spirit spring and create a cultivation paradise. However, two spirit springs appeared at once only 2,000 kilometers away from Maplewood City. Looking at the scale, both these spirit springs were mid-rank as well. Hong hong hong. As if the incident was not shocking enough though, the air was filled with the rumbling sounds as the earth shook and the surrounding world energy aura rapidly increased in density. There were a few cultivators unable to reach the critical point in their breakthrough earlier because the world energy had become too thin, but now the source chi in their bodies fluctuated wildly all of a sudden, and they once again showed signs of breaking through. However, everyone ignored their own conditions and stood in a daze as they stared around in awe. It was dim underground, with the flood of world energy. The surroundings became barely visible, but everyone present was a Tao Source Realm master, so they were able to grasp their situation with a sweep of their divine sense. Everyone was shocked as one spirit spring after another appeared, and within a short time, the entire underground cavern before them was covered in densely packed spirit springs. After about a dozen breaths of time, 18 spirit springs fully emerged in the vast underground cavern. These spirit springs were no lower than mid-ranked, and 3 of them were even high-ranked. These 18 spirit springs seemed to be arranged in a special pattern, scattered across the cavern with the 3 high-rank springs arranged at the center and the 15 mid-rank ones surrounding them. There seemed to be a great mystery behind this arrangement. These 18 spirit springs erupted together, and everyone was dumbstruck by this spectacular scene. After experiencing the initial excitement and shock, everyone soon figured that there must be something more to this than mere coincidence. The appearance of a mid-rank spirit spring would already attract the first-class great forces to come and seize it, but now 18 spirit springs had emerged at once, with 3 of them being high-rank, so this was no longer something that those first-class great forces could occupy alone. Perhaps even the peak-level sects like Azure Sun Temple, Heavenly Martial Holy Land, and Orthodoxy Temple would be alarmed. Even Star Soul Palace might send someone here to investigate. This was definitely a major event that would shake the entire Southern Territory, possibly even the whole star boundary. Maplewood City would soon become famous across the world. It's over, it's over, someone muttered with the corner of his mouth twitching. Although he didn't speak clearly, everyone knew what he meant. With the emergence of these spirit springs, This place would now certainly have nothing to do with his own sect. The arrangement of these spirit springs. Could it be the 18 stars grand array? A person among the crowd who was scanning the surroundings with his eyes uttered in amazement. 18 stars grand array? A man looked at that person in doubt and questioned, "Are you proficient in spirit arrays?" "I know a little something." That person nodded. Everyone turned to that person in curiosity and asked, "Since you know about spirit arrays, would you enlighten us about this 18 stars grand array?" The face of that person turned pale and bitter, but after pondering for a moment, he quickly answered, "I'm not sure if this is the 18 stars grand array. After all, that spirit array is an ancient one lost to history, and I only chanced upon a brief description of it in an ancient text." An ancient spirit array. An exclamation sounded abruptly. Ancient times and primordial times were two very special periods, and it was said that in those times the world principles were far stronger and richer than they were today, as if over time principle strength was gradually thinning, making it more and more difficult for cultivators reach the peak of the martial Tao. But anything involving ancient times and primordial times would bring excitement to the people. So, when they heard that 18 stars grand array was an ancient array, everyone was interested and wanted to inquire about it. Yang Kai's expression also changed slightly as he looked at that person and questioned, "Is your surname Gong? One of the heavenly river valley Gong family?" Someone yelled immediately. If someone could recognize ancient arrays at just a glance, his attainment of spirit arrays must not be underestimated. In the entire Southern Territory, the heavenly river valley Gong family was renowned for its comprehension and proficiency in the Tao of spirit arrays, so anyone from the Gong family was known as an array master. Yang Kai had dealt with Gong Wenshan from the Gong family in the Four Seasons realm and had witnessed the prowess of the Gong family in spirit arrays, which was why he asked this question. It's you." The cultivator who stood beside Yang Kai did not seem to notice his presence until now, but he immediately opened some distance with him once he did come to his senses. Others followed suit, and in an instant, there was no one left beside Yang Kai. Yang Kai pointed to himself. "I was just taking a walk here. No need to be so tense." He also did not expect that others would be so afraid of him. Seeing him acting so casually, not showing any murderous intent, the others present felt a little relieved. "Brother Gong." Yang Kai spoke to that person again. The person gave a wry smile. "My surname is not Gong, but I'm still considered a half-member of the Gong family." What he said confused everyone. The person explained, "My wife belongs to the Gong family, so this one also studied a bit about spirit arrays from the Gong family." "So that's how it is." Everyone nodded in understanding, secretly guessing this man had married into the Gong family just to get him an opportunity to study spirit arrays. "Please tell us about the 18 stars grand array," Yang Kai requested. "I'm also curious about what this spirit array does." The 18 stars grand array is a powerful ancient array that has extremely harsh requirements to arrange. As you can see, you need to gather 18 objects that can continuously generate world energy on their own as the base of this array, making spirit springs the best building blocks. The Gong family son-in-law spoke rapidly about the spirit array with a solemn face. Obviously, he possessed a strong foundation, so what he said was convincing. And the use of this ancient array is... He paused for a while and continued, "To suppress and seal something." "Suppress and seal? Seal what?" The crowd was puzzled. "I don't know." The man shook his head and turned to Duan Yuanshan. "City Lord Duan? Was something unusual buried here once?" The corner of Duan Yuanshan's mouth twitched as he glanced over at Yang Kai and answered, "Since all of you have come to Maplewood City for a while now, you must know that Maplewood City was flooded by ancient demon chi a few months ago. Could it be that the thing that was sealed was actually ancient demon chi?" Everyone's face changed drastically as their legs began shaking in fear. Yang Kai was also in a daze as he secretly admired the powerful methods of ancient times. Among the people present, he knew best what was sealed here. It was not the ancient demon chi, but rather the black eye of a giant ancient demon. The black eye was capable of casting darkness across the world. And all the ancient demon chi which had gathered in this place had been born from that black eye. It was indeed a good way to seal demon chi with world energy, but it was a pity that even those ancient powerhouses had underestimated the power of the Black Eye. After countless years, the Black Eye had not disappeared, and although it had lost its spirituality and will, it continued to exist and finally broke free, only to be acquired by Yang Kai in the end. You don't have to worry. After that demon chi flooded the city, 3 Emperor Realm Masters arrived and dealt with it, so there should be no danger anymore. We also didn't notice any existence of demon chi for these past few months anyway. Duan Yuanshan comforted the people. He always believed that the retreat of the demon chi that day was due to the efforts of Gao Shueting and the others. It seems that demon chi was being sealed here by this 18 stars grand array. The Gong family son-in-law's face paled, feeling afraid. The rest also shivered slightly. After a moment of silence, a person voiced, "Let's not worry about the ancient demon chi. Given that these 18 spirit springs have appeared, this is undoubtedly an opportunity for all of us. Yes, since we cannot occupy them forever, why not take this opportunity to absorb as much as we can? What are we still waiting for?" Another person shouted before charging towards a spirit spring. This person was decisive and immediately rushed towards one of the high-rank spirit springs in an attempt to occupy it and absorb world energy as it erupted from it. There were only 3 high-rank spirit springs while the number of forces present was between 20 and 30, so it was natural that people wanted to seize the initiative. As soon as the person moved, everyone could not help using their movement skills and rushing towards the spirit springs too. Yang Kai also made a move and immediately teleported on top of one of the high-rank spirit springs, hovering mid-air as he gazed around coldly. He could see several cultivators were dashing over crazily, seemingly belonging to the same sect, their cultivations all decent, the lowest of which was second-order Dao Source Realm while their leader was a third-order. They seemed intent on seizing this high-rank spirit spring. However, Yang Kai arrived before them in just the blink of an eye. This group stopped their steps as all their faces turned ugly. The leader of the cultivators was a calm, handsome-looking middle-aged man. After pondering for a moment, he cupped his fists and spoke, "Brother Yang, can we have a discussion?" "No," Yang Kai replied decisively. The middle-aged man's face darkened, forcing a smile. "I haven't said anything yet. My answer is no. Don't be like this. Everyone here wants the best. Can you not give us a chance? Besides, the spirit spring is too big for you alone. How about we take half while Brother Yang occupies the other half? That way, everyone will be satisfied. I like monopolizing treasures and never share with others." Yang Kai lifted his nose high to the sky, acting like he was invincible. "Little brat, don't get cocky. Don't you think that we're afraid of you, we're just giving you a bit of face." A cultivator behind the middle-aged man suddenly clamored. The middle-aged man furrowed his brow, but he did not speak to stop him. Obviously, he was displeased too. Yang Kai glanced at the person from the corner of his eyes. "If you're not afraid, don't just flap your lips. Come up and snatch it from me." The man was enraged and stepped forward, seemingly wanting to do just as Yang Kai proposed. The middle-aged leader was frightened when he saw this and hurriedly raised his hand to block his companion, turning to Yang Kai and asking once more, "Brother Yang, can we really not share?" Yang Kai answered coldly, "I've already given you face when we first spoke, yet you still continue to challenge me. If you dare to fight with me, don't blame me for slapping you." "Slapping?" The middle-aged man's face changed drastically, horrified as he recalled the moment when Ning Yuanshu and Zhuang Pan were slapped by Yang Kai. Yang Kai glanced away at that point and continued, "If you go to grab another spirit spring now, you might still have a chance. But if you continue to idle here, I'm afraid that you wouldn't even be able to drink some soup from this meal." The middle-aged man anxiously turned his head to look before waving and shouting, "Let's go!" As Yang Kai said, more than half the 18 spirit springs were already occupied, and battles had begun to break out for the ones that remained. The scene was quite shocking as world energy swirled about and stones from the cavern broke apart. The scene was especially frigid around the other 2 high-rank spirit springs as the strongest groups were all competing for these prizes. Duan Yuanshan and the rest of Maplewood City's old ancestors, who were familiar with one another, knew they did not have the strength to compete for a high-rank spirit spring, so they instead chose to cooperate to occupy one of the mid-rank ones. Among the 18 spirit springs, only the one occupied by Yang Kai remained calm and peaceful. Everyone had seen how brutal Yang Kai could be and avoided competing with him for anything, not daring to provoke him. Yang Kai was naturally pleased to see this. He did not pay attention to the fights occurring above the other spirit springs, and instead sent a message to Lu Yen with his divine sense, asking her to escort Hua Qingxi and the others to him. He then rushed towards the spirit spring eye and landed above its center axis. In the next instant, Yang Kai was surrounded by rich, liquid world energy. The feeling of the world energy pouring into his body made him feel extremely comfortable, and his second-order Dao Source Realm cultivation was rapidly being consolidated. Yang Kai was overjoyed and immediately circulated his secret art to absorb more world energy. At the same time, he took out the sealed world bead and opened a gap in it to allow the surrounding world energy to pour into it. Yang Kai soon frowned though and looked down intently, his eyes gleaming, as if trying to see across space. He seemed to have vaguely sensed something down below that was rising up along with the gushing world energy from the spirit spring eye. A moment later, a whooshing sound appeared beneath where he sat. Not good! Yang Kai's heart sank. He did not know what was shooting up from inside the spirit spring eye, but he felt an extremely dangerous aura coming from it. So he quickly urged his source chi to protect himself while also hurriedly trying to retreat from where he stood. But he acted one step too late. Xiao xiao xiao. Hong hong hong. One by one, inexplicable objects rushed out at an incredible speed and struck Yang Kai, each one carrying an extremely potent force behind them like a falling meteor. Yang Kai felt pain all over his body but still managed to use these impacts to help himself leave the range of the spirit spring. Right behind him, streaks of white light, like shooting stars, shot up into the cavern. What the hell? Yang Kai looked shocked and quickly dodged aside, finally able to analyze what was happening. Soon, his irritated expression was replaced by one of excitement. The objects which had emerged from under the spirit spring and struck him turned out to be fist-sized source crystals. Judging from the color and purity of these source crystals, they were all at least mid-rank, with a large number of them being high-rank. Yang Kai gawked at the scene, his eyes hot with enthusiasm. Across the star boundary, the currency for trading between cultivators was low-rank source crystals. For example, he had spent 10 million low-rank source crystals to purchase the faceless profound grass from Gao Shueting in Azure Sun Temple. If those were to be converted directly, they would total 100,000 mid-rank source crystals, or 1,000 high-rank source crystals. The source crystals that Yang Kai had obtained so far were basically all low-rank, with a few mid-rank and even fewer high-rank mixed in. High-rank source crystals were not easy to obtain and could only be mined from the top-grade source crystal loads. Top-grade source crystals loads were always controlled by great forces, and once any high-rank source crystals were mined, they would directly enter the sex coffers for internal use, rarely being circulated to the outside world. The higher the rank of source crystals, the more useful they were. Many of the massive spirit array sects arranged required high-rank source crystals to run, and when it came to making breakthroughs, high-rank source crystals were the preferred choice for high-level cultivators. As such, how could Yang Kai not be shocked when so many mid-rank and high-rank source crystals suddenly appeared in this place? While he was still lost in his thoughts, the 17 other spirit springs erupted together. A large number of source crystals shot up from below the spirit springs together with the eruption of world energy. Whooshing sounds rang out all over at the cavern, which was illuminated by the countless white streaks of light. The cultivators who did not notice the incoming source crystals in time were struck by them, and could not help but grunting loudly, traces of blood often trickling from the corners of their mouths. Just a moment later, though, the entire underground was filled with excited cultivators. Source crystals. High-rank source crystals. This spirit spring actually has high-rank source crystals coming from it. Ha 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 ha. I'm rich. Scram. The spring eye is ours. Be wise and leave. Otherwise, don't blame my fellow brothers for not considering the relationship between our sex. What a joke. Treasures belong to those who can occupy them. You think the few of you can hoard all of these for yourselves? If you have a death wish, I'll grant it. Since you refuse my kind gesture, then you will suffer the consequences. The appearance of the 18 spring eyes had caused chaos, but the emergence of countless source crystal put all the cultivators present into a maddened frenzy. After all, springs could not be taken away, and everyone present knew they had a limited amount of time to cultivate here before word spread and true powerhouses came to claim this place. However, source crystals were different. Source crystals could be stuffed into one space ring and taken away, and they were a common currency used across the entire star boundary. One piece of high-rank source crystal was equivalent to 10,000 pieces of low-rank source crystal. From the number of source crystals that emerged from this eruption, just occupying a single spirit spring for a few days would be enough to double or even triple a small sect's financial resources. Due to this phenomenon, sects that were already on bad terms became more hostile with each other, and tension even formed between sects which were previously allies. Men die for wealth, birds die for food. This was an immutable truth. While Yang Kai was still glancing around in shock, Hua Qingxi had rushed over with Zhang Ruoxi, Lu Yan, and Qin Zhaoyang to his side. Seeing the wonders of this place for the first time, Hua Qingxi's eyes were filled with awe and her delicate hand covered her red lips. What's going on here? Spirit spring eyes appeared. Then source crystals began erupting out of them. That's what happened. Yang Kai grinned. Zhang Ruoxi was young and had little experience, but she still paled at the sight of such a shocking scene. Qin Zhaoyang's eyeballs almost dropped out of their sockets as he stared at the spirit springs and source crystals before him for a long time, his limbs shaking, speechless. Ruoxi, don't worry about anything else. Just find a safe place to cultivate. Lu Yan will stand guard for you. Yang Kai gave Lu Yan a meaningful look. Lu Yan nodded and guided Zhang Ruoxi to sit next to the high-rank spirit spring in understanding. While she stood there, Lu Yan reached out and snatched any source crystals that flew her way. Yang Kai saw this and tossed a space ring to Lu Yan before saying to Hua Qingxi, "Follow me and collect these source crystals. We'll leave cultivating for later." "Good." Hua Qingxi nodded. With a sway of her tender body, she and Yang Kai floated up to a spot above the spirit spring. Source crystals were constantly erupting from the spirit spring, so Yang Kai stretched out his hands and released 100 golden blood threads, weaving them together into a giant golden net. Chi chi chi. The source crystals that spewed out all entered the golden net while Hua Qingxi immediately formed a series of seals with her hands, creating a kind of suction force that drew the captured source crystals over to her, swiftly storing them into her space ring. The two worked together seamlessly to capture every source crystal exiting the spring, leaving none behind. "It seems that you don't need my help here." Qin Zhaoyang watched them for a moment as his mouth twitched slightly. "Brother Yang, you continue to deal with your business here. I'll seek my own opportunities." This was a great opportunity to accumulate a fortune and greatly enhance the foundation of the Qin family. The spirit spring occupied by Yang Kai no longer required Qin Zhaoyang's assistance, so he decided to move elsewhere. His eyes swept around before he grinned meaningfully, and with a flicker, Qin Zhaoyang appeared above the mid-rank spirit spring where Duan Yuanshan and the others from Maplewood City were gathered. "Greetings, City Lord Duan. Fellow brothers. Is this old thing trying to seek some undue advantage?" The Du family patriarch, Du Lishan, glared at him. The Zhou family patriarch, Zhou Yi, snorted. "Old dog Qin is pretty good at faking sincerity. Where did he learn such skill from? How am I being fake?" Qin Zhaoyang was immediately unhappy as he pulled his beard in anger. "You two disrespectful fools. Do you want this old master to beat you up so badly your mothers can't recognize you?" Zhou Yi and Du Lishan looked at each other and laughed. "Would your mother recognize you if she was still alive?" Qin Zhaoyang's face darkened immediately. "Good. Let's stop the nonsense. Help out since you're here. Every source crystal we miss winds up in someone else's pocket." Duan Yuanshan waved his hand and shouted in a low voice, "I will obey City Lord Duan's orders." Qin Zhaoyang grinned meaningfully and joined the team. The patriarchs were all from Maplewood City and had known each other for quite some time, so although there were some grievances between them, they were much more accepting of each other than the foreign enemies they were facing. Despite their banter earlier, their relationship would not be affected. Hey Joey, you old fart, you actually managed to break through to the second-order Dao source realm. The heavens must really be blind. Qin Zhaoyang commented as he collected source crystals after noticing the patriarch of the Zhou family had also broken through as he had. What are you talking about? Zhou snapped. If an old fart like you can break through, why can't this old master? It seems that everyone has made a breakthrough. Du Lishan grinned meaningfully. Qin Zhaoyang only then thought of investigating the cultivations of the others and realized that everyone had indeed made a breakthrough. All the old patriarchs had now reached the second-order Dao source realm, together with Drunkard. Meanwhile, Duan Yuanshan had reached the third-order Dao source realm. Oh! Congratulations, everyone! Qin Zhaoyang laughed. Let's rejoice together. Duan Yuanshan grinned meaningfully. Today, Maplewood City can no longer be regarded as weak. As the saying goes, internal disunity dissolves at the threat of external invasion. This Duan hopes that we all can work together in the future. If these patriarchs all joined forces, together with the strength of Duan Yuanshan and Drunkard, they would be quite formidable. At least, they would be able to go up against some second-class sects and families. The only thing they were missing now was the protection of an Emperor Realm Master. However, there were not many emperors out there, and most second-class forces did not have such a master assuming command. Everyone nodded solemnly after listening to Duan Yuanshan's statement. There were 3 high-rank Spirit Spring Eyes, Yangkai, and the 8 Paths sect each occupied one, while the last one was occupied by 2 other sects who had joined forces specifically to do so. The other 15 mid-rank Spirit Springs were also crowded with people. The 8 Paths sect disciples were actually not strong enough to occupy a high-rank Spirit Spring all to themselves, but everyone had scruples about the brutal Luo Yuan, so none dared to provoke 8 Paths sect as they did not know when Luo Yuan would return. Seeing how he had chased protectors Gao Shan and Lu Shui away, no one would have the guts to oppose him. As he worked with Hua Qingxi to collect the source crystals erupting from the high-rank Spirit Spring, Yang Kai's expression abruptly changed as he sent her a message. I'm going down to investigate. It was impossible for source crystals to simply erupt from below without a reason. So Yang Kai guessed that there must be some mystery beneath the spirit springs and wanted to investigate. Now, with his golden blood thread net above the spirit spring, blocking the source crystals from flying away, he did not need to remain as Hua Qingxi could collect the source crystals for him. What was more, Lu Yen was here too. If anyone was blind enough to come and try to seize the spirit spring, the 2 of them would be enough to chase them off. Be careful. Hua Qingxi did not try to stop him, simply warning him seriously as she saw him off. Yang Kai nodded and leapt downward for a second time. Just like before, he plunged into the spirit spring and faced a strong resistance that tried to push him upwards. There were also countless source crystals whizzing up and striking him as he tried to descend. Yang Kai felt pain all over his body and was forced to endure it with his source qi. He also manipulated the surrounding space principles to shield himself, easing his descent. The more he sank down, the greater the resistance and the denser the surrounding world energy became. Yang Kai took out his sealed world bead once more and began allowing it to swallow up the surging world energy mixed with source crystals. He had no idea how deep he had sunken, only that the surroundings were now all but opaque, making it difficult to see anything around himself. Yang Kai released his divine sense to compensate, but was only able to scan a 10-meter distance in front of himself. Any further was hindered by the boundless world energy. At a certain point, Yang Kai suddenly stopped and landed on solid ground. This should be the bottom of the spirit spring. He stood still on the ground and felt the surroundings for a moment. He could clearly sense that the space here was not as small as he imagined. In fact, it was extremely broad. He stood there thinking with an odd expression for a while before releasing his divine sense once more to explore his surroundings vigilantly. Xiao xiao xiao. Numerous pieces of source crystals mixed in with the surrounding world energy kept shooting upwards in surging torrents. Yang Kai focused his eye to perceive the surrounding space and soon pinpointed the direction from which the source crystals were originating and walked towards it. Along the way, his harvest was unimaginable as his sealed world bead continued to devour the world energy and source crystals. Not long after, Yang Kai suddenly stopped and stared ahead intently. In the misty white world filled with liquid spirit chi, there seemed to be something gigantic lying in front of him. Although there was still a distance between them, Yang Kai was able to see its fuzzy silhouette. He did not know what was before him, only that it was gigantic and did not have the slightest life aura. All he could tell was that all the source crystals were shooting out from its direction. Yang Kai pondered for a while before moving forward again. He came to the front of this object and upon closer inspection, finally saw exactly what it was. Yang Kai was stunned and unable to speak for a moment. After quite a while, he only broke the silence with a burst of joyful laughter. He realized now that the giant lying in front of him was actually a source crystal lode. Fist-sized source crystals were separated from this lode and entered the flow of world energy, splitting into 18 branches as they shot upwards. The source crystals collected by the cultivators above were obviously separated from this gigantic lode. The lode shone brightly and was extremely pure, containing not the slightest impurities. There would not be another source crystal lode as huge and pure as this in the entire star boundary. Only in ancient times would such a treasure be found. Yang Kai was quietly feeling the 18 branches of the world energy torrent on top of the mine and pondering. The 18 spirit springs are actually connected to each other? So, if this lode was claimed, the people above. He frowned and thought for a while before he gradually stopped, restraining his excitement. A tremendous divine sense like a flood dragon swam out, transforming into a formless power that began enveloping the mine. In the next instant, Yang Kai's expression changed as his cheeks turned pale and big drops of sweat condensed on his forehead, rolling down his trembling body. He underestimated the size of this load, and with the current strength of his divine sense, he could only barely envelop it. As a result, he could not pack it into his sealed world bead. The sealed world bead was an isolated world, and although it could collect anything, including living people, Yang Kai needed to use his divine sense to do so. The larger the object he tried to store away or take out, the greater the energy it possessed, and the more spiritual energy he needed to expend. Just like the first time Yang Kai collected the embodiment into his sealed world bead. Even though the embodiment did not resist Yang Kai and was cooperative, Yang Kai still almost collapsed due to its massive volume. This load was similar, although it was no doubt a lot smaller than his embodiment, which was newly formed at that time. This source crystal load contained an astonishing amount of energy. Yang Kai reckoned that if he forcefully collected such existence alone, his knowledge sea would be damaged. At this point, he sent a message to the embodiment in the sealed world bead. The next moment, the void crack appeared before the sealed world bead and widened leisurely in front of Yang Kai. Blue veins emerged on Yang Kai's forehead as his body shook violently and his source chi fluctuated violently. Now! He suddenly bellowed. Two giant hands shot out from the void crack. These hands were remarkably hard and had sharp edges to them. They were the hands of the embodiment. The embodiment crossed the boundary between the sealed world bead and the outside with its arms, stretching them to the left and right in a hugging posture. Holding the gigantic load in its palms, it lifted it up with a robust force only possible for a stone puppet. At the same time, Yang Kai sent out waves of divine sense, working together with the movements of the embodiment to draw in the load. Hong long long. There was a loud noise. The load slowly rose and moved little by little. Yang Kai's pale face turned even paler and his clothes were soaked in sweat. He felt pain in his head like 10 million needles were piercing his skull. His divine sense had been damaged by his actions. The soul-warming lotus released its 7-colored glow, repairing the damage to his soul with its soothing power, which made Yang Kai feel much better. Creaking sounds could be heard from the embodiment's arms as rubble actually fell from it. It too seemed incapable of bearing such weight, and the scene caused Yang Kai to be extremely nervous and anxious. It was just a moment, but seemed like 10 million years had passed. Just when Yang Kai could not stand it anymore, the embodiment in the sealed world bead forcefully retracted its arms, together with the source crystal load, dragging it into the void crack and disappearing. Simultaneously, the radiance of the sealed world bead flashed crazily as the void crack closed. Yang Kai staggered as he felt like his eyes, ears, mouth and nose were filled with a fishy and salty smell. Stars were floating in front of his eyes, and the world seemed to spin around him. He lost his balance and fell to his butt on the ground. Only then did he suddenly feel a sense of fear. Although the soul-warming lotus protected his soul from fatal damage, what he just did was undoubtedly extremely dangerous and reckless. If he used too much of his spiritual energy just now and caused crippling damage to his soul, he might have never been able to recover. A line of cold sweat rolled down Yang Kai's forehead as his whole body shivered. Who? Yang Kai hastily turned around and gazed in a certain direction as wariness flashed across his eyes. Who's there? At that moment, he actually heard the sound of footsteps. He was completely exhausted and could hardly move, so if someone who wanted to harm him appeared at this moment, he wouldn't even be able to escape. As such, Yang Kai immediately became vigilant and hurriedly wiped away the blood and cold sweat on his face, sitting with his legs crossed to put on a calm appearance. After Yang Kai called out, the footsteps paused for a moment, but soon they sounded again, this time even faster than before. Yang Kai's face turned ugly as he moved his gaze slightly downwards and stared intently at the incoming person. After a short while, a beautiful figure appeared in front of Yang Kai. This person stood still about 10 meters away from him and asked in hesitation, "Grandmaster Yang?" Hearing this person's voice, Yang Kai furrowed his brow and revealed an odd face. "It's you." The one who had come was none other than Yi Jinghan, the woman who had tried to latch onto him and just wouldn't let go no matter how he refused her. Unexpectedly, she had come down here too. Yang Kai stayed alert and asked coldly, "Instead of collecting source crystals up top, why did you come down here?" Although Yang Kai did not know what this woman wanted with him, they had no relationship and he had clearly rejected her previously. However, she still kept following him, which annoyed him greatly. Yi Jinghan replied, "This mistress is the only person present from Thousand Leaves sect, and she knows she is unable to compete with others up top." Her words were full of bitterness and loneliness. Seeing that Grandmaster Yang went down, this mistress thought about coming down as well to take a look. While speaking, she suddenly coughed twice. "Are you hurt?" Yang Kai raised his eyebrows. "A minor injury?" Yi Jinghan answered. "I was hit by someone when I came down." Hearing this, Yang Kai roughly understood what happened. Everyone was busy occupying their own spirit spring at this moment, so if Yi Jinghan wanted to come down here, she would need to force her way through one of the spirit springs. Someone must have thought she was trying to snatch their source crystals and attacked her. Since she only had a second-order Dao Source Realm cultivation, it was natural that she could not force her way through completely uninjured. "Do your parents know that you act so recklessly?" Yang Kai sat cross-legged in the same place, looking at Yi Jinghan coldly. Yi Jinghan replied bitterly, "This mistress has been an orphan since she was a child." Yang Kai was struck speechless and remained silent for a while before asking in a deep voice, "What did you see just now?" "What?" Yi Jinghan asked with a blank face. "Nothing." Yang Kai exhaled softly. Yi Jinghan's tone and expression seemed genuine, so she should have seen nothing just now. "Grandmaster Yang," Yi Jinghan stammered, "can you give this mistress a chance to say a few words? Aren't you already talking?" Yang Kai was now completely weakened at the moment, and although Yi Jinghan probably would not act disadvantageous to him, it was wise to always be on guard. He concealed his fatigue and quietly recuperated, restoring his strength while casually answering, "Many thanks, Grandmaster Yang." Yi Jinghan was overjoyed when she heard these words, feeling emotional that her sincerity and efforts had finally paid off. After considering her words carefully, she spoke seriously. "This mistress is actually looking for Grandmaster Yang to ask a favor." Yang Kai closed his eyes and focused, ignoring her. Yi Jinghan continued, "This mistress hopes that Grandmaster Yang... Grandmaster, be careful behind you." "What?" Yang Kai was startled because at that moment he felt a sudden chill coming from behind, like a sharp blade that was cutting into his skin. His face changed drastically. He was so focused on restoring his strength that he failed to notice danger approaching from behind him. If it had not been for Yi Jinghan's warning, he probably would not have even noticed it. Deep down, he felt extremely shocked and perplexed at who could have come this close to him without him noticing. In haste, Yang Kai pushed his source chi madly and leapt into the air, turning around as he crossed his arms in front of his chest. Honk! A huge force struck him head-on at that moment. Gatizi! The sound of bones fracturing rang out. Yang Kai was extremely shocked this time. His physique was incredibly intrepid, to the point that even a simple blow from an Emperor Realm Master would not be able to crack his bones. But this inexplicable attack did just that. Dragon Transformation! Yang Kai snarled abruptly and accompanied by a high-pitched dragon roar. Dragon scales covered his arms, blocking the impact of the violent power. This power! Yang Kai's expression turned solemn as he suddenly noticed something odd about the force which attacked him. It did not seem to be source chi that he was familiar with, but another kind of unknown power. He looked up immediately, releasing his divine sense, trying to search for the culprit who had the courage to attack him. Yang Kai gasped when he finally saw it. Not far from Yang Kai stood a dark silhouette, one without the slightest vitality, filled with so much violent energy that it was constantly fluctuating unstably. In the darkness, two scarlet predatory eyes which could make anyone shudder stared at him. Yang Kai's face darkened and he asked in a low voice, "Who is your excellency?" There was no answer. The figure just tilted its head and looked at Yang Kai blankly before lifting its fist and swinging it towards him fiercely. Although it was just a simple fist, the wind generated from this attack was like a storm of 1,000 sharp blades, cutting through the air fiercely. Having suffered a loss just now, Yang Kai was extremely vigilant, and with a flick of his 10 fingers, he summoned a series of tiny void cracks that flew out like a rain of needles towards the incoming assault. His opponent seemed to understand this attack was dangerous and withdrew from the battle, tilting its head as it stared at Yang Kai from a distance. The black shadow did not have quick reflexes, and even seemed a bit stiff and jerky in its movements, almost like it had not moved about for a long time. But Yang Kai instinctively knew that this was a formidable enemy. A strange sound reverberated from the black shadow, and Yang Kai suddenly felt a hot sensation coming from his lower abdomen. What? Yang Kai was perplexed and backed away with a tap of his foot. He would not be flustered even if his opponent was a genuine Emperor Realm Master. But at this moment, he couldn't help wanting to get as far away as possible from this dark shadow. The reason was that the ancient demon chi sealed in his lower abdomen was somehow aroused. Thankfully, the mysterious power of the gold and silver seal suppressed this ancient demon chi firmly. Otherwise, Yang Kai would definitely transform into a demon again. This shadow, is it related to that ancient demon? An unimaginable thought surfaced in Yang Kai's mind and he suddenly paled. Although the surging demon spirit in his lower abdomen was suppressed, it was clearly noticed by the black shadow. In a short time, the murderous thoughts of the black shadow spread out like a tide, unspeakable hostility permeating towards him, and even the dark energy becoming visible to the naked eye. Demon Chi! Yang Kai exclaimed. At this moment, he was absolutely sure that the black shadow before him was related to the ancient demon, because the energy fluctuations of the two were almost the same. Kill! A single word came out of the black shadow's throat before it shot towards Yang Kai, sending out a punch that seemed capable of collapsing the world. Yang Kai's eyes widened, flicking his wrist without hesitation, and summoned the Emperor Artifact Myriad's sword into his hands. With a great bellow, he flourished his sword. Myriad sword arts. One man as a mountain. The wave of sword chi surged out and filled the air. A thick and solid barrier formed from sharp sword chi appeared before Yang Kai, blocking the first strike, but the black shadow quickly sent another punch, causing Yang Kai's body to tremble and almost shattered his sword barrier. Grandmaster Yang, this mistress will assist you. Yi Jinghan's voice trembled slightly, revealing her inner panic and fear, but she still braced herself and flew over, summoning a bracelet onto her delicate wrist as she channeled her source chi into it. Next, the bracelet enlarged into the size of a washbasin and whirled towards the black shadow. Don't! Yang Kai let out a loud shout. Although Yi Jinghan's cultivation was similar to his, she would have no chance to fight against this black shadow, and a single mistake here would result in her death. He was too late, though, because the bracelet artifact activated in the blink of an eye and struck towards the Dark Shadow's head. The Dark Shadow did nothing to prevent it, though, and simply let the attack hit. Dang! As if hitting a solid object with a loud clunk, the light on the bracelet flickered wildly, and a trace of demon chi began to contaminate it, corrupting its spirituality. Pooh! Yi Jinghan spurted a mouthful of blood, her aura instantly weakening. The bracelet artifact was her natal artifact, cultivated together with her own life essence from when she was young. If this artifact was damaged, her physical body would also be affected. She immediately retrieved the bracelet with a wave of her hand as a deep fear gripped her. Looking down at the bracelet, a black chi intertwined around it, gradually spreading to its surroundings, corroding everything it touched. Yi Jinghan was mortified as only now did she fathom the gap in strength between herself and the Dark Shadow. Kill! The hoarse screeching voice which sounded like metal rubbing against metal sounded, making the two people present extremely uncomfortable. Yang Kai composed himself as he lifted the myriad's sword once again towards the Black Shadow. Staring at his opponent solemnly, he shouted in a low voice, "Who exactly is your excellency? What is your relationship to that one-eyed great demon?" "Kill!" The Black Shadow repeated the same word, ignoring his question. "Are you underestimating me?" Yang Kai was furious, and a golden gleam suddenly appeared in his left eye, activating his demon eye of annihilation to spy on the Black Shadow. He wanted to see exactly who this Black Shadow was. The sight which greeted him, however, turned Yang Kai's expression strange as he muttered in shock, This is... Yang Kai could see through all illusions using his demon eye of annihilation, so he was able to observe the true form of the Black Shadow. He discovered that this Black Shadow, just like Lu Yen, was not a living thing at all, but a kind of existence similar to an artifact spirit assuming human form. However, this Dark Shadow's original form seemed to be a giant hammer. The hammer was hidden and enclosed in the Black Shadow's body and contained a boundless amount of demon chi. Exquisite runes flowed across the surface of this hammer like living creatures. Yang Kai felt a sharp sting in his left eye, followed by a moist and hot sensation trickling down from its corner. He forced himself to examine the shape of the hammer carefully, feeling a sense of familiarity the more he looked at it. Then he remembered. He had indeed seen this hammer before, not in his life, but rather from when he scanned the memories of young Lord Jiang Chuhe of the Jiang family. When the demon chi flooded Maplewood City previously, Jiang Chuhe had been transformed into a demon when he was corroded by the ancient demon chi. Yang Kai and Qin Yu had worked together to display a secret technique that allowed them to scan his memories at the time. Among those memories was one of this hammer. During a great ancient battle, the weapon used by the ancient demon was this war hammer. Its power was all-conquering, and countless ancient mighty warriors had died tragically under it. Demonic war hammer! Yang Kai yelled as he quickly dismissed his demon eye of annihilation, not daring to look at it again. If it really was the ancient demon's war hammer, it made sense for the demon spirit sealed in Yang Kai to resonate with the Black Shadow. There was an inseparable relationship between the two, and it was only natural for them to react to each other. If that was the case, the mighty men in ancient times did not only seal the black eye of the ancient demon here, but also the demonic warhammer. It was just that the demonic warhammer had been suppressed by the 18 Stars Grand Array and was only just now released. Perhaps it was related to the source crystal load that Yang Kai collected. The source crystal load could have been the key to suppressing the demonic warhammer. Although that was his deduction, Yang Kai did not feel any regret in collecting the source crystal load. The 18 Stars Grand Array reappeared in the world today, so this place was destined to be visited and explored by countless masters. Even if Yang Kai had not collected the source crystal load, it would have eventually been taken away by someone else. In other words, it was only a matter of time before the demonic warhammer was released. However, Yang Kai had not expected the demonic warhammer to be able to retain its sentience during the countless years it had been sealed, much less assume a human form. With a quick thought, Yang Kai changed his defensive stance to an offensive one. Myriad sword arts. Radiant moon swallows the wolf. Chi chi chi. Countless sword lights bombarded the human form artifact spirit like a drenching rain, beating it back and forth continuously. The demon chi on its surface flickered unstably, but it did not receive the slightest injury. It was an ancient demonic warhammer in human form, at least equivalent to a peak-level emperor artifact in terms of resilience. Yang Kai had no means to damage this opponent unless he used his spiritual energy to attack its consciousness. Unfortunately, Yang Kai had just overused his soul in collecting the source crystal load, so it was difficult to utilize his divine sense at the moment to execute a soul secret technique. For now, he could only defend. As soon as the sword lights came out, Yang Kai immediately retreated in a flash to Yi Jinghan's side, grabbing her hand and shouting, "Run!" Just as he shouted, the two flew upwards rapidly, following the direction of the surging world energy. Above the 18 spirit spring eyes, the cultivators looked at each other donning ugly expressions. Where did the source crystals go? Why aren't they coming anymore? Damn it! Why did the eruption of source crystals have to cease? What happened? I don't know what happened. The spirit spring eyes just seemed to stop erupting source crystals. Many cultivators were looking around and yelling, unable to fully express their feelings with their words. After all, this was a 1-in-a-million chance to receive free source crystals, not to mention they were high-rank and mid-rank source crystals. Everyone present was experiencing a joyful harvest, but the source crystals giveaway just ended like this. From the spirit springs now, there was nothing else but pure world energy. How could this not sadden everyone? Did something happen below? Someone guessed. Should we check it out? Maybe there is some heaven-defying opportunity waiting down there for us. Another person suggested. There was a change in everyone's expressions with his words. Previously, everyone had been busy collecting source crystals and did not pay attention to other matters. Now that there were no more source crystals, they naturally wanted to go down and examine the situation. 18 spirit springs and numerous source crystals had suddenly appeared, so even a fool would not believe that there would be nothing good down below. Therefore, their hearts were moved. However, they knew that the one who took the lead usually bore the brunt of the danger, so everyone was glancing around at each other, waiting for someone else to make the first move. Ahem. Brother Sci-Fi, your cultivation is worthy of respect. Why don't you lead us down there? An elderly man suddenly turned to another old man and asked. The old man named Qi Shihai snorted coldly. Brother Wu, who must be joking. Why didn't you ask this old master to take the lead while collecting source crystals just now and only thought of him when this dangerous matter came up? Are you insulting this old master's intelligence or your own? Zhou Wu, who gave a dry cough. Just forget it. If Brother Sci-Fi is unhappy about it, you don't have to bad-mouth me like this. Do you not rinse your mouth after eating? Qi Shihai replied coldly. This old master is not stupid enough to be manipulated by others. Zhou Wu, who spat disdainfully, cupped his fist and turned to the 8 Paths sect disciples. Little brother Luo, this old master has seen your excellency's amazing cultivation and your astonishing strength. You must be a man who is showered with great opportunities and luck. Does little brother Luo want to lead the exploration? No one had a clue of when Luo Yuan came back. Although his whole body was messy after battling with the 2 old men, Gao Shan and Lu Shuai, he still looked energetic, as if the battle had yielded him plenty of benefits. The few people from Flying Saint Palace had also completely disappeared at some point, perhaps scared off or forced out by Luo Yuan. Old man, you're really insidious. Go down by yourself if you want. Don't instigate my senior brother Luo. The round-faced woman from the 8 Paths sect glared at Zhou Wu, whose face was darkened, and he snorted. Haven't you learned how to respect the elders, little girl? Can't you see this old master is already so old? Look at my beard and hair. They're all white. The round-faced woman snorted too. Since you're already so old, why not just lie down somewhere and wait till your time's up? If you keep running here and there, won't you just die faster? Little girl, you really infuriate this old master. Zhou Wu, who trembled in anger. Qi Shihai was taking pleasure in his misfortune to the side, smiling happily. Something's wrong. Luo Yuan broke his silence with a single sentence. Looking downwards intently into one of the high-rank spirit spring eyes, frowning, as if an enemy was approaching. What? The round-faced woman turned to him after hearing him. Luo Yuan's face only became more solemn as time passed though, suddenly shouting, "Retreat!" Pushing his source chi madly, he enveloped several disciples of Eight Paths sect and shot backwards 1,000 meters in a flash. Goo-loo-loo. Bubbles appeared at the center of the high-rank spirit spring, like it was boiling over. What happened? Everyone looked at the spirit spring with a blank face. Soon after though, a figure suddenly broke out of it, sending up a giant splash of liquid world energy. Someone already went down there? When did he go down? It's him, that monster. Everyone exclaimed one after another as their faces turned ugly after seeing Yang Kai clearly. They had no idea if the sudden stop of the eruption of source crystals had something to do with him, and none dared to ask. Why did he come out from our spirit spring? The round-faced woman looked at Yang Kai in confusion and frowned. So, that's how it is. Luo Yuan seemed to figure something and said, "Looks like these 18 spirit springs are actually connected to each other. Is that so? Senior brother Luo is so brilliant." The round-faced woman responded with a smile, gazing at Luo Yuan with her beautiful eyes with no intention of hiding her admiration. The rest of the Eight Paths sect disciples' faces blushed with shame, knowing that their sect's young lady was completely blinded by love. Yang Kai looked left and right as soon as he emerged, then swiftly dashed over to where Xianxia and the others were. "Master." Lu Yan observed the bottom of the spirit spring eye intently and whispered, "I don't know why. I suddenly have a strange feeling that underneath, there's an existence similar to you?" Yang Kai quickly replied. "It can assume human form?" Lu Yan's tender body trembled, looking a little excited. There were not many artifact spirits that could assume human form and possess sentience. All these existences were of a similar kind, so when Lu Yan heard that there was another like herself, she naturally became enthusiastic, wondering how it assumed human form and how much sentience it had. "It's dangerous. Don't provoke it." Yang Kai put Yi Jinghan down while warning, taking out a bunch of spirit pills from his space ring and stuffing them into his mouth. Voila! Another sound was heard as the demonic artifact spirit followed Yang Kai out of the spirit spring, a violent and gloomy aura pulsing from its erratic dark figure. Only a pair of blood-red eyes remained constant. "Ha! Who is it this time? He looks quite vicious. Ha ha ha! Looking at that monster running away, this guy seems to be quite powerful. It would be good if he could quickly finish that guy off. And hopefully this would involve that Eight Paths sect brat surnamed Luo as well. Then we can just sit on the mountaintop and watch the tigers fight, hehehe." After the appearance of the demonic artifact spirit, it still focused its attention on Yang Kai, as if he was the only one in this world it was interested in, and the others were unimportant. It raised its hand and hastily punched towards Yang Kai. Chi! A wave of darkness that seemingly devoured all light shot forward towards Yang Kai's head. Yang Kai narrowed his eyes and slightly raised his hand, summoning all the golden blood thread he had been using to cover the spirit spring before. Honk! The dark wave hit on the golden net, causing the surrounding world energy to tremble. The golden blood threads failed to stop this attack though and collapsed in an instant. Yang Kai's face turned ugly as he retrieved his golden blood threads and swept out with his myriad sword towards the remainder of the dark wave. Hong hong hong! The two energies collided and exploded, kicking up a gust of wind that forced everyone present back a few steps. "He's amazing!" Everyone paled after seeing the skill of this demonic artifact spirit. Even Luo Yuan, who was far away, narrowed his eyes slightly. Yang Kai took out another bunch of spirit pills and threw them into his mouth like jelly beans. While chewing and swallowing, he called out lightly, "Brother Luo, I found you a decent opponent. Do you want to give it a try?" Luo Yuan snorted coldly. "Not interested. I successfully cultivated my secret technique." "Really?" Yang Kai exclaimed happily. "Then you should try out your secret technique's might against a strong opponent." "You shameless man." The round-faced woman waved her small fist at Yang Kai from far away with gritted teeth. "Don't try to drag senior brother Luo into your mess. Shame on you. Little girl." It's fine to be humiliated. Life is more important. Yang Kai put on a shameless face, looking proud of himself, frustrating everyone around him. Never mind, never mind. Yang Kai spat disdainfully and continued, since you guys don't want an emperor artifact, I'll just subdue it myself. What? An emperor artifact? Where is the emperor artifact? Quickly give it to me, I want it. Big brother Yang. Master Yang. Yang Kai grinned and pointed at the demonic artifact spirit. All of you are experienced cultivators. Can't you tell this guy isn't a living creature? What does little brother Yang mean? Qi Shihai immediately narrowed his eyes and asked in a deep voice. Yang Kai smiled. That's not a human. It's an emperor artifact spirit assuming human form. What? An emperor artifact spirit in human form? Yang Kai's words shocked everyone. All the cultivators stared at the demonic artifact spirit in amazement as a covetous glow flickered in their eyes. Honestly, just the two words of emperor artifact were enough to make them drool, but an emperor artifact with an artifact spirit that could assume human form was something none of them had heard of, much less seen before. In other words, this treasure's value was inestimable. Gudong. The sound of gulping filled the air as everyone stared at the artifact spirit in enthusiasm and greed, their divine senses scanning around, examining whether the condition of the artifact spirit was like what Yang Kai said. After a short while, Qi Shihai bellowed, "It really is an emperor artifact." He could see the outline of the demonic warhammer inside the artifact spirit's body, and could clearly feel something similar to emperor intent and emperor aura hidden within it, not something a Dao source realm cultivator could comprehend. It's really an emperor artifact. Although Zhou Wu, who was still enthusiastic, there was fear and vigilance in his eyes too. But since it has already assumed human form, I'm afraid that it will be difficult to deal with. Everyone, be careful not to act rashly lest you suffer unintended consequences. Hearing what he said, everyone seemed to be splashed with ice water and their excitement gradually cooled down. Yang Kai glanced at him and laughed. If you want to achieve great things, you naturally need to take the risks. Since this sir is so cautious, why don't you just leave? Why are you still staying here? Zhou Wu, who gave 2 dry coughs, and replied in embarrassment, I just want to have a look. Yang Kai continued, even though this artifact spirit has achieved human form, it has been suppressed for countless eons below the 18 stars grand array. It's now far from its peak, so it's impossible that it can display the full power of an emperor artifact. If anyone is interested in this treasure, follow this Yang in battle. As for whoever this treasure eventually belongs to, that is up to destiny. After his speech, he braced himself and swung his myriad sword, sending out a rain of sword chi blades towards the artifact spirit. Seeing him taking the initiative, the rest of the gathered cultivators could not help joining in. Everyone knew that there was a certain risk in dealing with an emperor artifact that had assumed human form, but not many people could remain unmoved before such a huge temptation. On the spur of that moment, all the cultivators pushed their source chi and executed their secret techniques and martial skills, one after another, flooding the underground cavern with colorful bursts of light. The disciples from 8 Paths sect were also eager to make a move, but when they saw Luo Yuan standing to the side, choosing not to intervene, they stayed their hands and remained anxious on the spot, observing the situation quietly. Hong hong hong. Brilliance flashed as several dozen Dao Source Realm cultivators bombarded the place where the artifact spirit stood, causing the internal situation to be unclear to them, even using their divine senses. Did it die? There's no movement at all, is it really dead? Everyone craned their necks and looked towards where the artifact spirit stood with expectation and excitement, waiting for the results. The lights gradually dissipated and the turbulent flow of power slowly calmed down, but everyone's heart sank when they saw the scene before them. The demonic artifact spirit was standing silently in the same place, its radiance slightly dimmer than before, but showing no signs of significant damage. Instead, being besieged by everyone seemed to arouse its anger, and it began viciously sweeping its crimson eyes full of cruelty and ferocity over the surroundings, seemingly trying to remember all its enemies' faces. When they were being glared at, everyone felt an inexplicably chill, as if they heard the call of death. After taking so many attacks, It's unharmed? Is this artifact spirit indestructible? How can we fight this? Young Master Yang. The situation seems a little different from what you said. The corner of Yang Kai's mouth twitched. Did you guys use your full strength? The consciousness of this artifact spirit doesn't seem high. What's more, it has been suppressed for tens of thousands of years. It shouldn't still be very powerful. Ahem ahem. Everyone showed an embarrassed look on their face after this comment. No one had actually given it their all just now, as everyone wanted to save some strength in order to snatch the Emperor artifact when the artifact spirit was exterminated. However, none expected that all their blows would wind up in vain, leading to the current situation, one they felt a bit uncomfortable about after Yang Kai exposed them. Oh no! Quickly act. It's preparing to attack. Yang Kai suddenly changed his expression and shouted. The demonic artifact spirit stretched out its hand and clenched the void, summoning a black war hammer into its grip. This war hammer looked exactly the same as the one that Yang Kai saw in its body previously, and was obviously the artifact spirit's original form. Various mysterious runes swam across its surface, emitting a profound and mysterious aura. An extremely dangerous aura emerged from the war hammer. Inexplicably, everyone felt like they had been plunged into a blizzard at this moment, chills running up their spines. From afar, Luo Yuan's pupils contracted abruptly as he realized the situation was becoming dangerous, shouting out to his fellow Eight Paths sect disciples, "Retreat! All of you!" As soon as he finished, he instantly moved atop the artifact spirit's head using a profound movement skill and performed a series of hand seals, pushing his source chi madly as he shouted, "Blazing Sun Golden Wheel!" A small red flaming wheel abruptly formed between his hands, causing the temperature of the underground cavern to rise rapidly, sending a wave of hot air across everyone's skin. All present could sense a massive killing power contained in this secret technique, and they couldn't help gazing towards Luo Yuan with faintly pale faces. The small sun in Luo Yuan's hand immediately began to fall towards the artifact spirit, but before it could land, the artifact spirit roared, sensing danger as it pushed its black chi vigorously. "What the hell are you all doing? Attack now!" Yang Kai bellowed as he rushed in front of the artifact spirit and swung his myriad sword at it directly. Only then did the other cultivators regain their consciousness and once again execute their secret techniques and martial skills one after another, sending blow after blow towards the artifact spirit. This time, they did not dare to hold back anymore and instead went all out, causing the scene to be several times brighter and grander than before. Even if it was a true Emperor Realm Master here, it would still be impossible for them to take so many attacks head-on. They could only withdraw in the face of such an onslaught. However, the artifact spirit remained unstirred. It was uncertain if its consciousness was too low or if it had extremely high confidence in itself, but as it was being bombarded, it simply raised its war hammer high, causing the flowing runes on its surface to flash wildly. Principal strength burst forth, forming an invisible force that covered the entire underground cavern. In the next instant, the artifact spirit fiercely smashed its hammer down. The hammer impacted space itself, shattering it and creating a giant black hole. The shocking force seemed to have crossed the barrier of space, striking the hearts of every attacking cultivator. Pu. With one blow, all the incoming attacks were annihilated and most of the cultivators present were made to cough up blood. Being knocked back and sent flying, everyone wore distressed looks as their vitality tumbled. Luo Yuan also grunted as his blazing sun golden will collapsed by itself and failed to injure the artifact spirit. It was the same for Yang Kai. An invisible barrier suddenly formed in front of the myriad sword, preventing him from delivering his blow to the artifact spirit. The next moment, a huge force from that barrier struck him. Pooh! Yang Kai vomited golden blood and flew back like a rag sack, damaging his already weakened body. Hong hong hong! The sound of explosions rang out all around as the ground and cavern walls cracked. Gravel of all sizes fell from above and all 18 spirit springs were affected by the aftershock, boiling and erupting all at once. The underground space became even more unstable due to the impact, and there were now signs of it collapsing at any time. "Oh no! This place is coming down. Run!" Little brat surnamed Yang. This is all your fault. If I die, I will not let you off even as a ghost, someone yelled while escaping. Yang Kai wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and shouted back. Men die for wealth, birds die for food. You made your choice, so you should bear the consequences yourself. I instigated you? If I asked you to eat shit, would you do it? Bastard! That person bellowed angrily but dared not to stay any longer, running away desperately. At this point, the underground was bustling with everyone busy running for their lives. Yang Kai intended to put Xianxia and the others back into the sealed world bead, but when he saw the artifact spirit glaring at him like prey, he could only order with his teeth gritted, "Leave by yourselves." As his words fell, Yang Kai immediately rushed in a certain direction. The artifact spirit chased closely after him without hesitation. A short while later, followed by a huge crumbling sound, the earth caved in and a huge pit suddenly appeared in this wilderness 2,000 kilometers away from Maplewood City. Liquid world energy began to fill this pit, forming a kind of small spirit lake. Shio, shio, shio. Rays of light burst out from the ground as cultivators who were down below fled out with lingering fears, their faces paled. In a certain direction, the artifact spirit was chasing after Yang Kai, moving like lightning. Ha 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 ha. There was a path to heaven, but you refused it and chose hell instead. Left and right protectors, listen to my orders. Bring that brat to me. This young master is going to teach him some proper manners. A burst of arrogant laughter came out from the front. Yang Kai looked ahead and found that 3 figures were standing there. Ning Yuanshu, Gao Shan, and Lu Shui, the trio from Flying St. Palace. Apparently, they did not leave but stayed here. Though it was most likely that they were afraid of Luo Yuan, so they did not go deeper into the underground where the spirit springs were located. They continued to wander around outside. Seeing the sight of Yang Kai at this time, Ning Yuanshu was overjoyed. When he gave the order, he showed a ferocious grin on his face, his eyes filled with hatred and grudge. Earlier, Yang Kai had slapped his face in front of everyone, giving him the greatest humiliation of his life. So he secretly swore vengeance on Yang Kai, and just when he was worried about Yang Kai's location, he appeared by himself. Although the 2 protectors, Gao Shan and Lu Shui, suffered a small loss at Luo Yuan's hands, that did not mean that they could not take down Yang Kai. Ning Yuanshu was very confident in the strength of these 2 protectors. Little brat, you heard what the young palace master said. Crawl over here obediently if you are smart. This old master doesn't want to lay his hand on you, lest he gets a bad name for bullying the weak. Gao Shan stared coldly at Yang Kai. Lu Shui continued, It's time you surrender yourself. The strength of these 2 old masters is beyond your capability to resist. Do so and your efforts will only end in vain. Stop speaking nonsense with him. Hurry up and capture him. This young master wants him to taste the greatest tortures of the world. I want to rip his corpse into 10,000 pieces to relieve my hatred. Ning Yuanshu shouted with a nasty expression. Gao Shan and Lu Shui had a solemn expression upon hearing this, and they began to push their source chi. Hold on. 2 old sirs. Junior will be right there. Yang Kai smiled joyfully and flew towards them quickly, while waving happily to Gao Shan and Lu Shui. Gao Shan and Lu Shui were stunned on the spot, as was Ning Yuanshu, all of them wondering what Yang Kai was up to. Under normal circumstances, shouldn't Yang Kai be running away? But he actually took the initiative to show up at their doorstep happily, as if he finally saw his loved ones after many difficulties, which was very puzzling. Protectors, be careful. He might be trying to swindle us. Ning Yuanshu reminded them in a low voice. Gao Shan and Lu Shui nodded in reply. Don't worry, young palace master. This little brat is not as strong as Luo Yuan. He won't be able to pull any tricks. I hope so. After a short while, Yang Kai appeared directly in front of the trio and grinned at them. Ning Yuanshu seemed to be afraid of being slapped by Yang Kai, so his pupils shrank and he unconsciously took a few steps back, putting some distance between him and Yang Kai. Junior greets 2 seniors. Yang Kai smiled and cupped his fists, gesturing to Gao Shan and Lu Shui before immediately looking over at Ning Yuanshu again. Young palace master, There was a small little misunderstanding between us before, but why don't we let bygones be bygones? We can still be good friends now. Good friends. Ning Yuanshu glared at Yang Kai nastily, thrusting both of his extremely swollen cheeks in front of Yang Kai. Look at me. Do you think this young master can be good friends with you? Yang Kai leaned back slightly, turning his face aside with a disgusted look. Young palace master doesn't need to come so close to say something. This Yang is timid. Please don't frighten me. Ning Yuanshu was furious and roared. You did this to me. All right. Yang Kai interrupted his clamor with a wave, then looked at Gao Shan and Lu Shui with a smile. Two seniors. This junior will now surrender to you without a fight. Gao Shan groaned and nodded. At least you know some manners. Lu Shui continued. A wise man will submit to the circumstances. Boy, your future should be bright. He. Yang Kai grinned. Then, two seniors are now responsible for protecting this junior's safety, since I am one of your captives. Right? Protect your safety? Gao Shan frowned. What do you mean? Lu Shui also looked blank. But soon they knew what he meant. In the void, a figure soared over. The artifact spirit caught up with Yang Kai and stopped at a distance of a few dozen meters away, holding a demonic war hammer in its hands, viciously staring at Yang Kai. This aura. Gao Shan was taken aback as he stared at the artifact spirit pensively. Lu Shui's expression also turned awe-inspiring as he shouted in a low voice. Demon Chi. Yang Kai nodded. Two seniors are truly sharp. Yes, the aura around it is indeed demon Chi, and the purest ancient demon Chi at that. How can that be? Gao Shan and Lu Shui looked at Yang Kai with their eyes screaming, Are you kidding me? Yang Kai replied sternly. Junior is not in the mood to joke with the two seniors. Gao Shan asked. No wonder it felt a little different from the usual demon Chi. But how can there be ancient demon Chi here? Lu Shui was also puzzled. Can't two seniors tell this is not a living creature? It is an artifact spirit assuming human form. Look at the hammer in its hand. That's an ancient emperor artifact. What? The two old men trembled violently as their eyes fixed on the demonic war hammer in horror. Gradually, though, their horrified expressions were replaced by a look of fanatical greed. Yang Kai took advantage of the opportunity. Two seniors have astounding cultivation and extraordinary strength, but have been trapped at the peak of the Tao source realm for countless years, no doubt. The heavens must be jealous and have no eyes for allowing this. If two seniors can obtain this Emperor artifact, though, and use it to comprehend some mysteries of the Emperor realm, it may not be impossible to break through once more and become famous emperors, overlords of the star boundary in the future. You certainly have a way with words. Gao Shan turned to Yang Kai coldly. This old master is really moved. Yang Kai smiled. Only those who are predestined can possess treasures. There's no way any of those trash down there would be able to capture this artifact spirit. Only two seniors have the strength to subdue it. As long as its consciousness can be erased, this Emperor artifact will belong to you. Come now. Please act swiftly. This junior has the utmost confidence in you. After speaking, he actually retreated several dozen meters away, closed his fists and punched the air, cheering for Gao Shan and Lu Shui. Gao Shan and Lu Shui both gulped. Although they both knew that this artifact spirit was definitely not to be trifled with, how could they not be moved by the treasure right in front of them? Glancing at each other, the two shouted in unison, Let's go! When the words fell, Gao Shan's hand flashed and his Guqin artifact appeared. He sat down cross-legged in the air and placed the Guqin horizontally across his lap before he began plucking it with his fingers. Lu Shui also took out his flute at once, placing it against his lips, and blew into it lightly. The two completely different tunes resonated in an instant, perfectly matching each other and forming an impact visible to the naked eye, enveloping the artifact spirit. Yang Kai was close by and was not target, but after hearing the sounds, he suddenly felt that his consciousness was blurring slightly. This sound seemed like a living thing, burrowing into his ears, using a peculiar power to affect his mind. He was secretly surprised and hurriedly circulated his secret art to resist this sound attack. The impact on the artifact spirit was even more significant as it was forced to bear the brunt of this attack. Although it was only assuming human form, it did not have much sentience. It was actually the perfect tactic to restrain this artifact spirit with a sound attack that targeted its soul. As soon as the music played, the demonic warhammer was greatly affected. The red glow of its eyes flickered and its thick demon chi constantly trembled. However, it still managed to hold onto its warhammer. Seeing this scene, Gao Shan and Lu Shui were ecstatic and pushed their attack more and more vigorously, eager to take down the artifact spirit. Ning Yuanshu watched excitedly, praying that Gao Shan and Lu Shui would succeed as soon as possible. If the two protectors succeeded, he would be able to bring this warhammer back to Flying Saint Palace. An ancient emperor artifact would definitely contain many great secrets, and if it was refined by his Lord Father, it would definitely be able to improve his strength greatly, which would increase the status of Flying Saint Palace and indirectly raise Ning Yuanshu's status. How could he not be excited? On the other side, Yang Kai sat down cross-legged, taking advantage of this time to restore himself. At this moment Gao Shan and Lu Shui were holding the artifact spirit in check, so Yang Kai naturally had to seize this good opportunity. Although this artifact spirit was ferocious, it was not undefeatable. Yang Kai had the will, but not the power to fight against the artifact spirit due to him overexerting himself when collecting the source crystal load earlier. As long as he was given a little time to recover, he would be able to give this artifact spirit a good beating. Above the wilderness, the sound of the guqin and flute pierced through the air in fluctuating reverberations, playing an enchanting melody. The sound waves gathered constantly, following the ups and downs of the rhythm, hitting the artifact spirit directly, causing its glow to flash wildly. The cultivators who escaped from the underground were attracted by the movement here and gradually approached, watching from a distance. Gao Shan's and Lu Shui's faces sank, for fear that they would end up gifting this treasure to others. Especially when they saw the little brat Luo Yuan among the crowd, they grew quite anxious. To put it nicely, they ended in a tie in the previous battle with Luo Yuan. To put it bluntly, they were completely defeated by him. After all, the two old men teamed up to fight while Luo Yuan was alone. It was an obvious victory when a rising star could suppress the two experienced old masters and cause them to escape in embarrassment. With scruples in their hearts, the two old men made eye contact, and as if they knew what each other was thinking, the next moment the beautiful melody changed sharply into hostility. The rhythm became intense and the sound that resonated changed from melodic to threatening, like the charge of an army of horses and soldiers rushing towards the artifact spirit. Sound waves raged as the world lost color. Ho! At that moment, the artifact spirit, which was suppressed by sound waves, suddenly roared. The flickering red eyes suddenly stabilized and an unimaginable aura burst forth from it. The war hammer, which it had been holding up high, suddenly descended. The wind and clouds changed suddenly as a massive wave of energy surged forth, swirling around the war hammer like a great vortex. When the war hammer hit the void, space shattered like a mirror and a halo of light spread out like a sharp blade, cutting through the sound waves that were approaching it. The sound waves disappeared one after another like fading dandelions, followed by the sound of Gao Shan's guqin strings snapping, and the creaking sound of Lu Shui's flute cracking. Not good. The two old men's expressions changed wildly as they quickly pushed their source chi to protect themselves. Under the impact, the strength of the two old men was no better than a small canoe thrown into the stormy sea, overturned at once. Pooh. The two of them spat blood in unison, and their auras instantly dimmed. Protectors! Ning Yuanshu yelled in horror, his pupils shrinking. Wastes! Yang Kai cursed in anger. He was expecting Gao Shan and Lu Shui to buy him a little bit of time so that he could have a chance to recover, but he did not expect these two old fools to go all out suddenly, and as a result wound up being beaten by the artifact spirit in just 30 breaths. Not only that, but both of their artifacts were damaged. The two old men had suffered huge losses in this battle, and it would probably take them 10 or 20 years to fully recover. The actions of the two protectors obviously enraged the artifact spirit, so after breaking free from the shackles of the sound waves, it raised its war hammer again, causing the runes on its surface to flash even more brilliantly than before while a black hole appeared before its face. One that seemed capable of swallowing the world itself. Everyone was filled with dread as they felt something horrendous was about to happen. The black hole was extremely small at first, but in the blink of an eye, it expanded rapidly as if it was trying to devour the world, giving the people an illusion of a coming apocalypse. Darkness descended on them as the entire world became pitch black. In the boundless darkness, something was vaguely growing rapidly. Gao Shan and Lu Shui were the first to bear the brunt as various dark emotions in them suddenly started to materialize and surged up, causing their eyes to tremble and exude an extremely evil light. The darkness seemed to be able to swallow someone's mind and make them fall into the path of evil. Not good, Gao Shan bellowed, biting the tip of his tongue and spitting a mouthful of blood essence, barely managing to suppress his dark impulses. It was the same for Lu Shui. Both of them looked pained, and it seemed that they would not be able to hold on for long under this strange ability before they would succumb to their impulses and become demons themselves. At the moment of crisis, a deep and solemn voice suddenly resounded across the world. The sound was infinite, seemingly near yet also far, ethereal and unpredictable. When this voice sounded, a ray of light abruptly burst out of the darkness. A figure enveloped in light quietly floated mid-air, performing a series of profound hand seals, mumbling some unknown incantation. All the cultivators who heard the sound of this incantation seemingly felt an invisible hand brushing their minds, washing away the surging darkness and bringing clarity back to their souls. It's her. Yang Kai stood not far away with an odd expression on his face, staring at the shimmering figure in the sky, unexpectedly discovering that this person turned out to be Yi Jinghan. He had no idea what kind of divine ability she was performing, or how it could have such a powerful purifying effect on one's spirit, immediately pulling all the cultivators here back from the abyss of misery. After everyone regained their senses, they dared not linger and immediately escaped from the darkness with their movement skills. The two protectors, Gao Shan and Lu Shui, saw there was a slim chance of survival and quickly fled too. Of course, they did not forget to drag Ning Yuanshu along upon leaving. Yi Jinghan's cultivation was only second-order Dao source realm, so even if she possessed a profound divine ability that could restrain the darkness, she certainly wouldn't be able to maintain it for long. After just 10 breaths, her pretty face turned pale and the light emitting from her body diminished drastically. She seemed to have exhausted all her strength and had none left for her to escape, her head drooping as she fell from the sky, like a beautiful flower petal that had wilted and was now falling to its death. At this crucial moment, Hua Qingxi threw out a red ribbon, wrapped it around Yi Jinghan, and pulled her out of the darkness, taking her and Zhang Ruoxi together with Lu Yan and running away without looking back. Seeing this situation, Yang Kai dared not to hesitate, turned around and teleported away with the help of the local space principles. He could not count on any of the cultivators here and could only rely on himself. However, the priority now was to restore his strength as soon as possible. Shortly after Yang Kai left, the artifact spirit lowered its war hammer and the darkness dissipated. It turned its head and looked around, only seeing an empty surrounding with not even a shadow of a living being. However, it quickly fixed its gaze on the direction where Yang Kai escaped towards and chased after him while hefting its war hammer. Clear Jade Mountain, about 10,000 kilometers away from Maplewood City. The divine spirit Luanfeng once appeared here and burned away a large swath of the mountain forest with its world-extinguishing black flames. Even though nearly 2 years had passed since then, the black flames showed no sign of fading and continued to burn vigorously. This region had become a barren, scorched earth, with not a blade of grass growing within a 100-kilometer radius, only patches of black flames covering the ground. Although this place was deserted and ruined, it had become a paradise for those who cultivated fire attributes, secret arts, and secret techniques. Many cultivators who cultivated the fire attribute came here despite the danger to seek comprehension from the profound world extinguishing black flames. After all, these were the flames of an ancient divine spirit and seemed to contain unlimited power. If they could refine just a tiny bit of these flames, it would be enough to benefit them for a lifetime. Yang Kai had long heard that there were many fire attribute cultivators gathered around Clear Jade Mountain, and had also thought of bringing Lu Yang here to absorb its power. Since Lu Yen was able to refine even the feather of the Luanfeng, there was no reason she would be helpless against these world-extinguishing black flames. However, he had been too busy recently to do so. With his continuous teleportations, Yang Kai reached Clear Jade Mountain within a short time, arriving at the land which was incinerated by the Luanfeng that day. Sweeping his eyes across this place, Yang Kai discovered many cultivators cultivating here. Everyone's aura was burning hot, so obviously they were cultivating fire attribute secret arts or secret techniques. Perceiving the arrival of Yang Kai, many of them opened their eyes and glanced at him, but ignored him afterwards. Yang Kai scanned them with his divine sense, his face turning solemn. This was because he found that there was no one here with decent cultivation. Most were just Origin Kings or Origin Returning Realm cultivators. Even the few Dao Source Realm cultivators were just First Order, which would be of no help to him now. He was hoping to rely on these cultivators to distract the artifact spirit, but now it seemed his plan was doomed from the start. But soon, Yang Kai's eyes lit up as he stared towards the center of the black flames. There was a safe zone at the very epicenter of the devastation, about 10 meters in radius, a place where the black flames did not even reach. After thinking for a while, he shouted, "Everyone, it will soon become dangerous here. If you don't want to die, leave now." The cultivators were woken from their meditation by his words, opened their eyes, and glared at him. Someone even chuckled and threatened him. "Little brat, what did you just say? Say it again if you dare." That person saw that Yang Kai was young, and thought that his cultivation must not be high, so he did not take him seriously. Yang Kai glanced at the person and faintly smiled. "I spoke very clearly, and I'm urging all of you to leave for your own good. Little brat, I bet you just want to monopolize this divine fire." An old man looked coldly at Yang Kai. "Young man, you need to know that bringing convenience to others means bringing convenience to yourself. This divine fire covers a huge radius and there is plenty of space here. So just find a place to sit and comprehend its mysteries quietly. There is no need to find trouble with others, right? Even if you are strong, you should know that 2 fists can't block 4 strikes. This old master advises you to behave yourself and not speak nonsense here." Yang Kai simply shrugged. "I'm not planning to comprehend the mysteries of this divine fire. It's just that a dangerous entity is approaching this place, and if you don't leave now, it will be too late." "What dangerous entity?" A tall and robust man, who had a first-order Dao Source Realm cultivation, snorted coldly. Yang Kai had never met this guy before, and he did not know if he was a local or a foreign cultivator. However, he was not surprised since there were a lot of foreign cultivators appearing in Maplewood City recently. This burly man continued bellowing, "Boy, don't be such an alarmist, otherwise, don't blame Father here for being impolite to you." Yang Kai's face changed abruptly, frowning slightly as he forced a smile. "All right, it will be difficult for you to leave now." "What? You little brat. You still dare to threaten us? Do you think I won't peel your skin off? This is outrageous. This brat doesn't put us in his eyes at all. Let's teach him a lesson." Just as everyone was ranting in a rage, a sound abruptly broke through the sky, and the artifact spirit's figure was revealed on the horizon, startling everyone. As they all looked towards the artifact spirit with doubtful faces, they quickly sensed its malevolent and powerful aura and went pale, realizing that Yang Kai was telling the truth. "Run! Why are you still sitting here like idiots? Are you hoping to die?" Yang Kai yelled. Everyone's expressions changed drastically. This artifact spirit did not look like a being they could provoke, and the intensity of the aura it gave off was comparable to an Emperor Realm Master. So no one dared to hesitate and immediately got up and ran away using their movement skills. The artifact spirit seemed to have no interest in anyone else but Yang Kai, so it ignored these people and simply fixed its scarlet eyes on him. A short while later, all the cultivators who had been cultivating the mysteries of the black flames here had evacuated. Yang Kai grinned at the artifact spirit. "I'm really curious how much sentience you have." While speaking, he raised one finger and asked, "How many is this?" The artifact spirit was indifferent. Yang Kai laughed out loud and answered, "This is two, you fool." Just as he finished speaking, the artifact spirit raised its war hammer. Yang Kai's expression slightly changed when he saw this and hastily dived into the safe zone surrounded by the black flame, laughing arrogantly. "Come and beat me! Come and beat me if you dare!" As if provoked by Yang Kai's words, the artifact spirit rushed towards him. However, as soon as the artifact spirit stepped into the land of burning black flames, it acted as if it was shocked by something and rapidly retreated. The artifact spirit's dark body was caught by several clusters of tiny black flames, and even though these clusters were small, they burned brilliantly. There was nothing in this world that could not be burnt by the Luanfeng's world extinguishing black flames, not even an emperor artifact. It was just that the black flames here had been burning for a long time without the support of the Luanfeng, so they had naturally become much weaker than before. Even so, such flames were still not easy to put out. The artifact spirit seemed to sense the danger of these flames and kept pushing its power to extinguish them, but to no avail, so it started to become irritated. It lifted its demonic war hammer and directly hit itself. That blow made a buzzing sound and released a powerful shockwave. Yang Kai squinted in fright. So hot-headed, although the artifact spirit was born from the demonic war hammer, such an impact on its own body would still cause some unpredictable consequences. It was obvious that the sentience of the artifact spirit was not high, and therefore it simply acted recklessly. Still, the blow was actually quite effective. The flames that were beaten by the demonic war hammer seemed to have dimmed a lot. Seeing this, the artifact spirit tilted its head curiously. Then, as if it had found an excellent solution, it lifted its war hammer again and began constantly beating the flames on its body. Yang Kai, who was looking coldly from the side, was thinking that this might keep it occupied for a while, so he immediately felt relieved and snorted coldly. "Take your time. This young master will teach you some proper manners later." After leaving these words, Yang Kai closed his eyes and focused, making the best out of his time to restore his own strength. Previously, when he swallowed a bunch of spirit pills, the medicinal effects were condensed inside his physique and meridians, but they had yet to be dissolved, causing a hindrance to his source chi circulation. What he needed to do right now was to refine all the medicinal effects completely and channel them into every part of his physique. The artifact spirit was still outside the scope of the black flames, busy hammering itself with its war hammer. Time passed slowly, and after an hour, the artifact spirit had finally extinguished the clusters of flames on his body. However, after experiencing them firsthand, the artifact spirit seemed to realize that these black flames were not something to be trifled with, so it simply stood outside roaring impatiently in an attempt to provoke Yang Kai, not daring to rush in. Yang Kai ignored it and continued adjusting his breathing while meditating. After another hour, Yang Kai suddenly opened his eyes, his face glowing a bit brighter, no longer looking weak and exhausted like before. He straightened his body up and grinned at the artifact spirit. "You're dead! Ho!" The artifact spirit roared ferociously. Yang Kai instantly teleported out of the black flames and pounced towards the artifact spirit, his eyes flashing as they stared directly into his opponent's scarlet gaze. "Look at me!" Yang Kai bellowed. It wasn't clear if the artifact spirit had understood him or not, but it instinctively lifted its head and looked at Yang Kai. Their eyes met, and golden light flashed from Yang Kai's left eye as he activated his demon eye of annihilation, suppressing the artifact spirit. The artifact spirit was paralyzed. The illusionary shape of a saber appeared abruptly in Yang Kai's eye in the next moment, and soon this phantom blade was floating above the knowledge sea of the artifact spirit. The saber was precisely crafted with dragons and phoenixes carved onto its body, exuding a shockingly powerful aura. It was the soul-splitting saber. This was the first time Yang Kai had used this emperor artifact after refining it. The artifact spirit was an emperor artifact assuming human form, after all, so Yang Kai did not dare to underestimate it and quickly used his strongest soul attack. The soul-splitting saber hummed as it released a brilliant halo from its blade and countless mysterious runes whirled around its body. Yang Kai shouted, "Heaven-severing slash!" Just after his shout, the soul-splitting saber slashed down fiercely. Ho! The artifact spirit roared in pain, as if it had suffered a great deal of damage, and its whole body flickered wildly, showing signs that it may collapse at any moment. The heaven-severing slash was a soul-secret technique that Xianxia learned from Tianyan after all. During this time, he had been slowly nourishing the soul-splitting saber according to the methods described in this secret technique, so the first blow he struck was extremely powerful. However, due to the short time he had been nourishing the blade, and his own low cultivation, not to mention the fact that the soul-splitting saber had yet to be fully refined by him, the power of the strike still had a lot of room for improvement. But it was enough for now. The artifact spirit stumbled and retreated with just one blow, without any strength to resist. The light that formed its body dimmed noticeably and began to crack apart. However, it did not have the slightest fear and instead grew wilder, raising its war hammer up high and charging towards Xianxia. Xianxia narrowed his eyes and secretly felt that the situation was turning bad. In desperation, a lotus bud as white as snow emerged from his left eye. Blossoming lotus. The lotus bud flew out and appeared in the artifact spirit's knowledge sea, slowly absorbing its spiritual energy in order to make itself bloom. Xianxia seemed to have played his last remaining card with the combination of the two soul secret techniques and the soul-type emperor artifact, finally halting the artifact spirit in place. A line of golden blood slowly trickled down from Xianxia's left eye. As the lotus flower gently bloomed, the light of the artifact spirit's body grew dimmer and dimmer, and its body became transparent in a blink of an eye. Soon, only the phantom of the blooming lotus was left in the place where the artifact spirit originally stood. When the lotus fully blossomed, it exploded with a bang, leaving behind a familiar war hammer in front of Xianxia. Xianxia gasped with his pale face, but before he could move, the war hammer shook slightly and attempted to escape. Still not dead, Xianxia exclaimed. This artifact spirit had taken his two soul secret techniques without dying on the spot. Its tenacity was beyond his expectations, but it was clearly nearing its end. Seeing the war hammer trying to escape through the air, Xianxia quickly took out his sealed world bead and performed a hand seal. Space principle swirled from the sealed world bead, and a void crack soon appeared on its surface. "Stop it!" Xianxia shouted. The giant arm of the embodiment reached out from the void crack with its fingers spread widely as it fell towards the war hammer like a huge mountain, suppressing it. Then, it immediately grabbed the war hammer in its hand and retreated back into the small sealed world. After that, the void crack gradually disappeared. Xianxia fell to the ground as he felt ill once more. The little power that he had barely managed to recover was depleted again, and he felt like he could see stars circling around his head at this moment. He tried to stand up again but found he was unable to rise to his feet. A fragrant wind flew over at that moment and held him. Xianxia turned his head with difficulty and saw the face of Lu Yen. "Master, are you okay?" Lu Yen asked nervously. Xianxia shook his head arduously, then turned to look around, soon finding that Xianxia was also here. He immediately understood that the two of them should have arrived long ago and hidden nearby in preparation to assist him after sensing the situation here. However, they did not expect that the battle would be over so quickly. In fact, if Xianxia had not spent too much of his spiritual energy in collecting the source crystal load earlier, he would not have been bothered by the artifact spirit for so long. Although the artifact spirit was an emperor artifact assuming human form, it could be restrained by soul attacks, and the soul secret techniques mastered by Xianxia were extremely powerful, so as long as he restored enough spiritual energy, it was not difficult for him to deal with the artifact spirit. "I'm fine." Xianxia shook his head and asked weakly, "Where is Ruoxi?" Lu Yen answered, "It's too dangerous here, so I had her follow that woman named Yi Jinghan." Xianxia nodded. "Good. Let me restore my strength first. Lu Yen, you should try to absorb the black flames of the Luanfeng here. They will be helpful to your growth if you can." "I was thinking that as well." Lu Yan's eyes flashed with a fiery light, staring at the world extinguishing black flames which were flickering around them, as if she was looking at some heavenly delicacy, licking her lips with her dainty scarlet tongue. Xianxia then looked at Xianxia. "Big Sister Hua, take care of this sealed world bead. You actually called me Big Sister Hua." It was Hua Qingxi's first time hearing Yang Kai addressing her this way, and she could not help but be stunned for a moment. When she regained her composure, Yang Kai had already moved into the small sealed world and tossed the sealed world bead over towards her. Smelly brat, pretending to be young. Hua Qingxi spat disdainfully, very dissatisfied with what Yang Kai called her. But she was soon distracted by the sealed world bead, examining it closely in curiosity. Although she had been staying in the small sealed world all this time, it was her first time seeing its true appearance up close. She could not help being curious about it, wondering what mighty expert had such profound ability to refine such a world into a bead. Soon, she set her dissatisfaction aside and started to study it with enthusiasm. After all, this was an emperor artifact. If she could comprehend anything from it, it would be of great help to her growth. She secretly guessed that the reason why Yang Kai was so proficient in the Tao of space was that he had comprehended the mysteries of this sealed world bead. In fact, she was wrong. Yang Kai had actually cultivated the Tao of space before he obtained the sealed world bead, and it was exactly because of this that Yang Yan had passed him the sealed world bead. If that wasn't the case, Yang Kai may not even have had the chance to possess the sealed world bead. However, Yang Kai did comprehend a lot of mysteries about space principles inside the sealed world bead. Inside the small sealed world, Yang Kai appeared leisurely. He was startled for a moment, then exclaimed, "Why is the world energy so rich here?" He did not realize until this moment that the world energy inside the small sealed world was 5 to 6 times richer than before. After that, he heard a muffled laugh. Then, where do you think the world energy that was previously absorbed in that spirit spring go? Yang Kai glanced at the embodiment and responded with a speechless face. "It's just that, I didn't expect that so much world energy had been absorbed. I'm afraid the cultivation environment here is now about the same as those first-class sect cultivation paradises." The embodiment nodded. "It's really not bad. But, after all, the world energy here is a river without a source, a tree without roots. If a way to replenish it is not found, it will be consumed one day." Yang Kai sighed. The world principles in this small sealed world are still imperfect. Even though it is an independent world, it was unable to produce its own world energy. So I still need to find a way to make its world principles evolve once more. While speaking, Yang Kai lifted his head and glanced at the embodiment with his eyes squinted. "Why are you leaning on the source crystal load?" The embodiment looked solemn, with his one hand performing a hand seal while the other gripped the demonic war hammer tightly. Sitting down close to the source crystal load, he replied, "I'm cultivating the heaven-devouring battle law." The corner of Yang Kai's mouth twitched. This source crystal load produces mid-rank and high-rank source crystals. Don't eat them all. The heaven-devouring battle law could devour everything beneath the heavens, including the essence of a cultivator's physique. Therefore, the source crystal load here was no exception. Under the operation of the heaven-devouring battle law, pure world energy was streaming steadily from the source crystal load into the body of the embodiment, like a river returning to the sea. The embodiment continued, "Relax. I divided this source crystal load into 2 and left you the other half." Yang Kai nodded. "That is for the best. If you have time, break the other half into pieces. I might need to use those source crystals someday. I need to recover first, though. I'll talk to you about the details later." After saying so, Yang Kai went to the nearby medicine garden in a flash and sat down cross-legged. There was the immortal tree in the medicine garden, providing unlimited vitality. So although Yang Kai had not suffered too great a physical injury from the battle before, he had still consumed a lot of his strength, and he could use the rich vitality here to recover faster. With a single thought, the world energy in the small sealed world gathered towards the place where Yang Kai was sitting, and in the blink of an eye, it began to liquefy around him. Yang Kai opened up his mind and body, circulating his secret art while absorbing the world energy as quickly as possible, his dispirited aura rapidly recovering as he did so. An hour later, Yang Kai opened his eyes. He seemed as mighty as a dragon and fierce as a tiger, his face flushed red and his eyes bright, no longer looking weak and dispirited. He circulated his secret art and disappeared in a flash, reappearing in front of the embodiment. The huge embodiment opened his eyes and looked at Yang Kai when he sensed his presence. Looking at each other, Yang Kai spoke. The artifact spirit does not seem to have been completely obliterated. There is still a trace of its soul hiding in the war hammer, so be careful. The embodiment grinned, spreading all 5 of his fingers. You mean this? Yang Kai fixed his eyes and saw a mass of condensed black chi in the palm of the embodiment, squirming about as if it had some spirituality, trying to escape from its confinement. However, this place was the small sealed world inside the sealed world bead, and the embodiment and Yang Kai shared the same soul, so with one thought, the world principles here could be commanded by either of them. Under such a situation, how could this mass of black chi escape? Although it was merely held in the palm of the embodiment, it was suppressed by the small sealed world itself, like a beast trapped in a cage. Did you force it out? Yang Kai asked quizzically. The embodiment shook his head. It appeared by itself. Why? Yang Kai's eyes widened. The embodiment chuckled. It probably sensed danger. Yang Kai asked in amazement. What did you do? Nothing much. The embodiment patted his stomach and replied grimly. I just tried eating it. The corners of Yang Kai's mouth twitched when he heard that as he grumbled. Will that be a problem? That was an ancient demon artifact on par with a peak-grade Emperor artifact, possibly even higher. What would happen to you if you just swallow it like this? According to the heaven-devouring battle law, there is nothing that cannot be devoured, so what does a trivial demonic weapon count for? The embodiment smiled proudly. You haven't cultivated this secret art personally, so it's only natural that you don't know how profound it is, but don't worry, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't have complete confidence. If I was stronger, not just the spirit of a demonic weapon, I could also devour that demon spirit sealed in your body. Yang Kai stiffened and asked in shock, Is that possible? Isn't that secret art invincible then? The embodiment laughed. I'm probably the only one who can do it. Even if you cultivate it, it would be impossible to achieve similar results. Although your physical body is strong enough, you wouldn't be able to withstand the contamination of that pure demon chi. If you cultivate the heaven-devouring battle law, I'm afraid it won't be long before you lose your sanity and devolve into a beast driven by the instinct to slaughter. Understood. Yang Kai nodded. That old dog Wu Mengshan was really up to no good. I don't know why he wanted to pass me this secret art in the first place. What was his purpose? I'm afraid he never imagined you would be able to resist the temptation to cultivate this secret art and give it to me instead. The embodiment answered. Yang Kai went silent for a while before he replied. If it weren't for you, perhaps I really would have tried to cultivate it. After all, the name Heaven-Devouring Battle Law is too glorious. I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to resist this temptation alone. At this point, Yang Kai waved dismissively. Fine, you can refine and devour it. If you can really refine its soul, it should be of great benefit to you. Yang Kai left the small sealed world as soon as he finished speaking and appeared above clear Jade Mountain. Looking around, he found Hua Qingxi sitting cross-legged on the ground, leaning against a big tree, studying the sealed world bead in her hand enthusiastically. Yang Kai glanced at her, but seeing that she did not seem to be aware of his presence, he simply stretched out his hand and took back the sealed world bead before scanning his surroundings again and asking, Where's Lu Yen? He did not see Lu Yen, and even the Luan Feng's black flames, which originally covered the whole region, had disappeared. She went back. Hua Qingxi stood up and replied. Yang Kai was surprised by this response but quickly used his divine sense to check, and sure enough, he found Lu Yen inside the sealed world bead, working hard to refine the black flames surrounding her. Yang Kai was not aware of when she had returned to the sealed world bead, so he assumed it was his embodiment's handiwork. What surprised Yang Kai was that it took Lu Yen only a short time to absorb all of the Luanfeng's world extinguishing black flames. However, from the looks of it, it would take some time for her to refine them all. You have to go back too. I still have work to do. With that said, he sent Hua Qingxi back into the sealed world bead before he took out a communication artifact. He sent a message to Qin Zhaoyang, requesting him to take care of Zhang Ruoxi while he rushed back. According to Hua Qingxi, Zhang Ruoxi was now with the woman named Yi Jinghan. Although Yang Kai believed Yi Jinghan was a good person, it was better to entrust Zhang Ruoxi to someone he was better acquainted with. After receiving Qin Zhaoyang's reply, Yang Kai put away the communication artifact and teleported away with a flicker of the local space principles. Yang Kai returned to the site of the 18 Spirit Spring Eyes a short while later. The terrain of this place had undergone earth-shaking changes due to the previous battle. The most obvious change was a giant spirit lake with a radius of roughly 10 kilometers. The demonic artifact spirit had smashed the ground here with its war hammer, causing a massive underground collapse, resulting in a huge pit. The liquid spirit chi from the 18 spirit springs flowed up into this pit and gradually condensed into a lake. This was a real spirit lake, comprised of sparkling liquefied world energy. The lake was already filled to the brim in just a few hours, and was now overflowing into its surroundings, filling the space with pure and rich world energy. Countless cultivators gathered around the spirit lake excitedly. These people were obviously from Maplewood City. When Yang Kai arrived here, the lake was already full of cultivators. Every cultivator occupied a place and did not waste any time in circulating their secret art, trying to absorb as much of the pure world energy here as possible. The closer to the center of the lake, the stronger the cultivation of the cultivators. It was basically all Dao Source Realm Masters occupying the center of the lake. Gathered around the outskirts were numerous Origin Returning Realm and Origin King Realm cultivators. From time to time, people would fight over better spots. Looking at the scene here, Yang Kai knew in his heart that this place would be widely known as a cultivation paradise in the Southern Territory and even the Star Boundary, and sooner or later it would fall under the control of the top sex. By then, it would be impossible for an ordinary cultivator to enter it at will. At the very least, they would need to pay some kind of price to do so. Yang Kai was not the only one who seemed to realize this. Almost all Dao Source Realm Masters knew this was inevitable, so they did not waste this once-in-a-million-year opportunity to hurriedly cultivate here, even if it was just for a while. By now, the news of the Spirit Lake appearing near Maplewood City would have spread to the big sex. In 3 days at most, Emperor Realm Masters would arrive and take control here. Yang Kai saw the Dao Source Realm cultivators from before, and also Qin Zhaoyang, Zhang Ruoxi, Yi Jinghan, and others together, all of them having occupied a good spot in the middle of the Spirit Lake. Yang Kai did not greet them immediately, and instead quietly found a spot to dive into the lake. There were also many cultivators below the lake's surface, all of them focused on cultivating. Yang Kai used his nihility secret technique to conceal his presence. Unless one was intentionally searching for him with their naked eyes, it would now be impossible for Yang Kai to be detected by anyone in such a rich world energy environment. Yang Kai dived all the way down to where the 18 Spirit Springs were previously. It was deserted here now as no one dared to go too near to the bottom, probably due to the fear caused by the appearance of the demonic warhammer in human form. Yang Kai released his divine sense delightedly and found the center of the 18 Spirit Springs. Then he took out the sealed world bead and opened a rift in it, allowing the liquid spirit chi to flow into it while he sat cross-legged to consolidate his second-order Dao Source Realm cultivation. Because of the imperfect world principles of the sealed world bead, it could not produce its own world energy. Only external supplements would be able to maintain the cultivating environment inside the small sealed world. Right here and now was the best time to stock up on world energy. Yang Kai did not have much time before the arrival of the Emperor Realm Masters. By then, he would not be able to collect world energy in this way. Gradually, Yang Kai settled down and cleared his mind of any extraneous thoughts. At the same time, the cultivators around the Spirit Lake discovered a strange phenomenon. This lake, why has it stopped spreading? Huh? You're right. Not only did it stop spreading, it even seems to be shrinking a bit. Could it be that this Spirit Lake was just a flash in the pan, and it will disappear in a few days? Shut your mouth. Maplewood City finally has such a cultivation paradise. How could it disappear so easily? The reduction of the lake is just a natural phenomenon. It should stabilize after a while. Although many cultivators noticed the anomaly, they did not know the reason. Even those Dao Source Realm Masters were clueless. However, it was not the right time to investigate the matter. Refusing to let go of such a glorious opportunity, the commotion on the lake soon settled down again. Thousands of people had gathered here, most sitting at the periphery of the lake, and many more who had received the news were flying over from Maplewood City, making for an extremely magnificent scene. Normally, there would not be sufficient world energy to supply such a large group of cultivators. However, when the world energy was rich enough to turn into a lake, even if there were hundreds or even thousands of people cultivating here, it was impossible for them to completely absorb all of the world energy. Time passed slowly, and every now and then, a cultivator would break through. Whenever this happened, the nearby affected cultivators would grunt with dissatisfaction and curse. Soon, it became customary for a cultivator who sensed they were on the verge of a breakthrough to consciously leave and look for a suitable spot in the outermost area to welcome their world energy baptism. The entire Spirit Lake, and even the entire Maplewood City area, was experiencing a slew of breakthroughs, and a jubilant atmosphere enveloped the entire region. Time passed slowly, and after 3 full days, Xianxia, who had been meditating at the bottom of the lake, suddenly sensed something. Opening his eyes and looking up, he sighed slightly and muttered to himself begrudgingly, "Why did they have to come so soon?" While speaking, he put away the sealed world bead and teleported himself to the surface of the Spirit Lake. Soon after Xianxia appeared, the sound of something cutting through the air rang out and several figures flew over from the horizon, coming to a stop above the Spirit Lake. These few people only stood midair and they didn't release their auras. Yet all the cultivators cultivating here were alarmed by their arrival and raised their heads to look at them. When they got a clear look at the faces of those few people, they all drew a sharp, cold breath of air. Azure Sun Temples Gao Shui Ting, Heavenly Martial Holy Lands Chan Wen Hao, Orthodoxy Temples Feng Ming, Seven Glories Chamber of Commerce's Chang Yuan, Violet Source Chamber of Commerce's Lu Qi, even Star Soul Palace's Senior Xiao has come. Those 6 were familiar faces to Maplewood City's cultivators. When the Luanfeng had appeared last time, it was these 6 emperors who had come to Maplewood City to carry out an investigation, and it was also they who opened Star Soul Palace's 5-colored treasure pagoda for the city's cultivators. The cultivators had assumed that they were already very lucky to see these great seniors one time in their lives and never expected to see them again. But just 2 years later, these 6 seniors had gathered in Maplewood City again. This was all but an impossible occurrence for the little Maplewood City. Usually, an Emperor Realm Master might not pass by here even once in dozens of years, yet several Emperor Realm Masters were now visiting this small city repeatedly. The Spirit Lake's vicinity descended into silence as the crowd looked up into the sky respectfully. It looked like those 6 emperors had also thought of the same issue as they observed the situation, and Violet Source Chamber of Commerce's Lu Qi chuckled as he spoke. "I always thought Maplewood City was anything but ordinary and had been considering opening a branch here, but unfortunately, I hadn't found the time to do so. Now, it looks like I can't delay this matter any longer." Maplewood City had some shops owned and operated by Violet Source Chamber of Commerce, one of which was managed by Kong Si Ran, but shops weren't the same thing as a branch. A branch was more like a representative of the Chamber of Commerce, and it would be overseen by powerful masters. An ordinary shop varied greatly in scale, but Spirit Pill Plaza was a decent example. It was only a little store, one that was so unimportant that Lu Qi wouldn't have ever heard of it if so many incidents hadn't occurred in Maplewood City. As for branches, Lu Qi had a thorough understanding of the situation of every one of them. If Violet Source Chamber of Commerce opened a branch here, then it would greatly improve the city's economy, and Maplewood City might become something more than a small unknown city in the near future. Glib words, Zhang Yuan sneered. 7 Glories and Violet Source were the 2 greatest chambers of commerce in the Southern Territory and had an intense rivalry between them. As such, whenever Zhang Yuan and Lu Qi met, they would inevitably get into a verbal spat. Upon hearing Lu Qi's statement, Zhang Yuan couldn't help but say mockingly, "Fatty Luo, if you had such good foresight, why didn't you say so earlier?" Lu Qi squinted his eyes and cast a glance at Zhang Yuan, snorting as he said, "My acute foresight isn't something the likes of you can comprehend. Go on, continue bragging. In any case, bragging won't cost you money." Zhang Yuan wore a disdainful look. Lu Qi let out an infuriated shout and turned his face toward Xiao Yuyang. cupping his fists as he said, "Senior Xiao, I want to have a duel against this horse-faced freak. A duel to the death." Sang Yuan's brows twitched and veins popped out of his forehead, gnashing his teeth as he snapped. "Such insolence! And just who are you calling a horse-faced freak?" As his face fell, his long face looked longer than it already was. Lu Qi cast a sidelong glance at him, then snorted and said, "Then, who are you calling a fatty?" Sang Yuan mocked, "You are fat, yet you're admonishing people for pointing out the truth? I dare you to slice off your fat belly." As he spoke, he chuckled and patted Lu Qi's large belly. Lu Qi moved back several steps and snapped, "Hey, horse-faced freak. We're having a civilized talk here, so keep your hands to yourself." He turned his head and looked at Xiao Yuyang, then said, "Senior Xiao, you witnessed everything just now, didn't you? That bastard is going too far. Today, I must fight to my last breath against him. Enough, enough." Xiao Yuyang's brow twitched as he waved his hand. "You're both businessmen, so don't you understand that amiability makes money? Why are you fighting and quarreling with each other at every meeting? You're embarrassing yourselves in front of everyone down below." Upon hearing this, Lu Qi and Cheng Yuan both looked down and noticed that many eyes were observing them, and many jaws had become loose. Everyone was observing these Emperor Realm Masters in stunned shock. "It's really so embarrassing to stand with you?" Gao Shueting looked at them disdainfully. "That's right. Our dignified status and prestige have been brought down by them," Chen Wenhao said expressionlessly. Feng Ming chuckled and his eyes started shining brightly, but his expression suddenly changed as he looked towards a certain region and said in surprise, "Huh, isn't that the boy who refined the extraordinary treasure pill? Why is he here in Maplewood City?" The crowd followed his gaze and their eyes landed on Yang Kai. "It's really him." Xiao Yuyang smiled and said, "Now that you mention it, I always thought his face looked familiar. It turns out I had once seen him in Maplewood City before. This boy is quite the talent. Our Violet Source Chamber of Commerce needs him." Lu Qi looked at Yang Kai with a flickering gaze. Sang Yuan snorted. "Didn't he say that he's already a member of a sect? It isn't up to you to recruit him." Lu Qi sneered and said, "If I step in personally, then which sect won't give me face? Horse-faced freak. I have to tell you now, if you dare to fight with me over him, then I'll really kill you today." Sang Yuan furrowed his brows and kept his silence. It looked like he was mulling over the pros and cons of this matter. Gao Shueting said calmly, "Vice President Lu, why are you making such decisions by yourself? Did you forget to ask for my opinion?" Upon hearing this, Lu Qi's eyes widened as he looked at Gao Shueting in surprise. "What does this have to do with you?" Gao Shueting brushed her hair back behind her ear and declared, "That boy is already mine." "Gudong!" A gulping noise echoed out while an odd look appeared on Xiao Yuyang's face. He couldn't help but cast some odd glances towards Gao Shueting. Yours." Lu Qi couldn't help but stutter. He felt like a lot of information was hidden behind those few words. Sang Yuan was also dumbfounded and he said weakly, "Doesn't Temple Master Wen have any objections? Why would he object to this?" Gao Shueting saw the confusion in Sang Yuan's face and wondered what he was talking about. But she quickly understood something and her expression turned cold while a faint blush filled her cheeks. The Emperor artifact, Radiant Sun Mirror, appeared above Gao Shueting's head and raging flames burst from its surface as she declared coldly, "If you dare indulge in such absurd thoughts, I'll cut you into 18 pieces." "Why is it such a specific number? What's so special about that?" Lu Qi was a businessman and he couldn't help taking notice of this odd point. "That's not the point." Sang Yuan cast a disdainful glance at Lu Qi, then looked at Gao Shueting and said, "Does that mean this boy is already a disciple of Azure Sun Temple?" Gao Shueting only snorted coldly in response and stored her Radiant Sun Mirror away, playing it off lightly. She wouldn't tell them that she had tried to recruit Yang Kai but was refused. It was an embarrassing tale after all. She was an elder of the great Azure Sun Temple. Yet she couldn't even entice a single Dao Source Realm Junior to join her sect. Even if she told them this, they might not believe her. Xiao Yuyang smiled. That little girl Lan Sun thinks quite highly of this boy and believes he will accomplish great things in the future. Elder Gao, I have to congratulate you for recruiting him already. Many thanks, Senior Xiao, Gao Shueting replied calmly. As the 6 emperors exchanged a few words, they kept a close eye on Yang Kai. The people next to Yang Kai were all engulfed by a strong wave of pressure and beads of sweat dripped down their foreheads. Amazement was apparent in most people's eyes as they all wondered why so many masters were eyeing Yang Kai. Fine, we have already assembled and we have to start dealing with the Spirit Lake's matter. Xiao Yuyang changed the subject and looked toward the Spirit Lake beneath them with a flickering gaze. I have already obtained some information about this place before arriving here, but I didn't expect that the world energy would be this dense. Chen Wenhao's expression changed as he asked in a deep voice. How is it in comparison to the Star Soul Palace's heaven-grade cultivation paradise? The other people also looked at Xiao Yuyang curiously. They all wanted to know more about the efficacy of Star Soul Palace's treasured lands. Xiao Yuyang fell silent for a moment before replying, It's not on par, but it's not far off. Upon hearing this, they were all shocked. The Spirit Lake beneath them was the land with the densest world energy they had seen in their lives, and it was vastly superior to any cultivation paradise in their respective sects. Yet it still wasn't on par with Star Soul Palace's heaven-grade cultivation paradise. One could only imagine how high the density of world energy was in that place. It was no wonder that Star Soul Palace was the hegemon of the Southern Territory. Even if they didn't have a peak-level master such as Bright Moon Great Emperor, they would still be able to nurture a lot of experts with their heaven-grade cultivation paradise, enough to ensure the sect's prosperity and dominance at least. Upon realizing the large disparity between them, the other emperors couldn't help feeling a bit dejected. This isn't the time to talk about this. The Spirit Lake below us has 18 Spirit Spring Eyes, and this lake has been formed by the unending stream of world energy flowing out from them. However, if it goes on like this, then it will dry out shortly. We need to seal this land. As Xiao Yuyang spoke, he turned to Lu Qi and said, Brother Lu, I remember that your Emperor artifact, the Unified Ceremonial Record, has sealing powers, doesn't it? Lu Qi smiled proudly. Senior Xiao is not mistaken, Xiao Yuyang said. Then I'll have to trouble you with this. Lu Qi said, Senior Xiao, I'm at your command. As he spoke, his expression turned solemn as he strode forward, leaving visible ripples in the air, one that spread out rapidly. As a boundless emperor pressure filled the region, the cultivators in the vicinity realized that the Emperor Realm Masters were finally making a move. Their expressions changed and they all moved back, trying to avoid getting caught up in whatever was about to happen. As for Lu Qi, he stretched out his hand and summoned a heavy-looking book before him, one that gave off a profound and ancient aura. Apparently, this book had been baptized by the endless flow of time for many, many years. The crowd's gazes were attracted by it, and Yang Kai's eyes flickered upon seeing it. Yang Kai knew that the book taken out by Lu Qi was an emperor artifact, but this was the first time he had seen such a type of emperor artifact, and he couldn't help but wonder what kind of miraculous abilities it possessed. The emperor artifact, Unified Ceremonial Record. Duan Yuanshan next to him had apparently recognized this artifact though and uttered its name in a low voice. Isn't it just a book? How did it become an emperor artifact? The inexperienced Zhang Ruoshi was quite outspoken and she voiced out her doubts. Duan Yuanshan said with a smile. Artifacts come in all kinds of shapes and they aren't always a saber, spear, sword, or something of the sort. Besides, the stranger an artifact's shape is, the stranger its power generally is, too. I have heard about the Unified Ceremonial Record, and it is said that it is an ancient book that absorbed Emperor aura and intent from many different Emperor Realm Masters, gradually transforming it into an Emperor artifact. A very strong Emperor artifact which has now fallen into the hands of Lu Qi. Upon hearing this, Zhang Ruoshi was still as confused as before and couldn't understand what was so amazing about it. As for the few Dao Source Realm cultivators, they had all revealed a solemn look as they looked excitedly towards the Emperor artifact in Lu Qi's hands. They all wished to reach the Emperor realm one day and obtain their own Emperor artifact. In the sky, Lu Qi, whose expression was solemn, weaved a series of hand seals before patting the Unified Ceremonial Record several times. As a swooshing sound echoed out, the heavy unified ceremonial record shot forth and floated above the spirit lake. A mysterious aura emerged from it, while Emperor intent and Emperor pressure emanated out of Lu Qi's body. He started weaving hand seals again as he mumbled, "The Book of Changes has the supreme origin, which gave birth to Yin and Yang. Yin Yang turned into the 4 divisions, which are the basis of the 8 trigrams that go back to the 10 regions." As he mumbled, the unified ceremonial records pages started fluttering and a bright golden radiance emanated from the pages and spread to the surrounding area. The golden radiance emitted indescribable energy ripples that swiftly began sealing the entire region. Lu Qi started weaving seals at a higher speed while his expression turned more grave. All of a sudden, he stopped and let out a shout, "Perfect boundary! Honk!" The golden radiance shone brightly, so brightly that people almost couldn't open their eyes. At this moment, all cultivators gathered around the spirit lake were pushed away by a soft and formless power, and they couldn't regain their balance until they were pushed beyond a certain point. Despite this, no one seemed to suffer any injuries. Once the golden radiance disappeared, the crowd took another look and their jaw immediately dropped to the ground. It could be seen that a golden dome of light had appeared above the spirit lake, covering it completely and sealing it thoroughly. Even a wisp of world energy couldn't leak out of it. The spirit lake had a radius of around 10,000 meters, yet Lu Qi managed to seal it completely all by himself, and he didn't even look tired afterwards, as if he had only done some insignificant matter. The eyes of the numerous Dao Source Realm cultivators shone brightly as they all longed for such great power. Each of them wished and dreamed about obtaining such strength one day. After Lu Qi had finished this task, he turned around and cupped his fists to Xiao Yuyang. "I have fulfilled your command." Xiao Yuyang nodded. "Many thanks for your hard work." After his voice fell, he strode forward and surveyed the region below him with his eyes. The cultivators gathered in the vicinity had all stuck out their chests, as each one felt like Xiao Yuyang was observing him. They were under the gaze of a Silver Star envoy of Star Soul Palace, and they all didn't dare to act improperly. Xiao Yuyang spoke in a clear voice. "A spirit lake has suddenly appeared in Maplewood City, and it is this land's good fortune, as well as our southern territory's fortune. However, if we don't manage it strictly, it will eventually dry out one day. This is why we have sealed it for now. As for how we will use it for the benefit of the people, we seniors here will have a detailed discussion regarding this issue now." After he spoke, he turned to Duan Yuanshan and said amiably, "City Lord Duan, you are Maplewood City's lord, so you also have the right to take part in this discussion." Upon hearing this, Duan Yuanshan was overwhelmed by the amount of respect he was given, and his face got rosy. He cupped his fists to Xiao Yuyang and shouted, "It is my honor to receive an invitation from your excellency." Xiao Yuyang nodded. "As for everyone else, you may rest assured that since the spirit lake has appeared in Maplewood City, no one will steal it from you and no single force will seek to monopolize it. After we finish our meeting, we will find a way to open it to everyone. Please await good news." "What? The spirit lake will be open to everyone? Is this real? Did I mishear him?" Senior Xiao has spoken personally. It must be true. Senior Xiao is a man of impeccable integrity, as expected of Star Soul Palace, our southern territory's hegemon. They are generous and magnanimous. The cultivators present had assumed that after today they wouldn't get another chance to use the spirit lake. Thus an uproar arose among them upon hearing Xiao Yuyang's statement, delight apparent on everyone's faces. But a few people revealed pensive looks. Xiao Yuyang had a prominent status and wouldn't lie in front of so many people. Since he had said so, then he would surely open it up to the public. But it surely wouldn't be easy for cultivators to enter this cultivation paradise. They would probably have to meet some conditions or pay a certain price for a quota. If this wasn't the case and anyone could enter it at will, then the spirit lake that only stretched 20 kilometers across wouldn't be able to accommodate so many people. It could be well imagined that news of Maplewood City's spirit lake would quickly spread across the whole southern territory. Once that happened, many cultivators would swarm over here to seize a cultivation spot within the spirit lake. Maplewood City would become the focal point of the southern territory, and it would attract many masters. Duan Yuanshan was the city lord of Maplewood City, and his little city had always been an unwanted child, but it would shortly become popular. Complex emotions welled up in his heart as he felt both excited and worried. He was excited because Maplewood City would become a great city thanks to the Spirit Lake. As long as it could attract enough people, it would become stronger in the future and would become one of the greatest cities. As for the source of his worries, he was worried because he wasn't strong enough to control the masters that would soon arrive. He couldn't help starting to weigh the gains and losses. Good. All of you can leave for now. I believe that you will shortly receive good news. Xiao Yuyang spoke and waved his hand in dismissal. Upon hearing this, the numerous cultivators didn't dare to stay here any longer. They all cupped their fists to Xiao Yuyang, then rushed toward Maplewood City. Yang Kai! Gao Shueting suddenly shouted. Yang Kai turned around and said with a smile, Elder Gao, what instructions do you have for me? Come to my room tonight, Gao Shueting said with an indifferent look on her face. Yang Kai was left dumbstruck. The cultivators who were just about to return home all stiffened and stood in their places in a daze. They all turned their heads and looked in shock at Gao Shueting, their eyes almost popping out of their sockets. They all couldn't believe what they had just heard. Azure Sun Temple's Elder Gao looked apathetic and as cold as ice. Yet she was actually so assertive. The crowd looked at Yang Kai with envy and jealousy. They all couldn't help but wonder what was so good about him and why he had been able to gain Elder Gao's favor. The few Emperor Realm Masters also wore spectacular expressions. They were all aware that Gao Shueting did not mean what it sounded like, but simply uttering such words was too scandalous. Why are you wearing such weird looks? Gao Shueting cast an ice-cold glance at the few Emperor Realm Masters near her as her pretty face's expression turned icy. Nothing, it's nothing. My belly just rumbled. I must have gotten a cold last night. Sang Yuan clasped his belly with a pained look plastered on his face, as if he would drop dead at any moment. I ate something strange before coming here. I must have gotten sick from that horrendous food. Lu Qi had also replied with a pained look on his face. Are you making fun of me? Gao Shueting revealed a cold smile. The two vice presidents could only laugh awkwardly in response, neither of them knowing what to say in response. At the crucial juncture, Xiao Yuyang coughed. Let's talk about business. That's right. That's right. Chen Wenhao nodded repeatedly like a chicken pecking rice, as if he was afraid that Gao Shueting would question him next. On the other side, after Yang Kai got over this awkward ordeal, he cupped his fists and said with a solemn look, Understood. Gao Shueting nodded. All right, you can leave. Yang Kai pulled Zhang Ruoxi and quickly rushed into Maplewood City along with the crowd, as if he had just been granted amnesty. On the road, many cultivators cast frequent glances at Yang Kai, and even Luo Yuan cast a glance at him with a weird look on his face. Damn it! That's so unjust. I'm so ridiculously handsome with a face like jade. Yet Elder Gao didn't even spare me a glance. Why is she so cordial to you? Ning Yuanshu, who was under the protection of the two old men, Gao Shan and Lu Shuai, yelled at Yang Kai with an indignant look. Yang Kai sneered and shook his head, letting his black hair flutter in the wind as he let out a sigh. It's obvious that I'm more handsome than you. Do you even believe your own words? Ning Yuanshu sneered in response. Mr. is the most handsome man in the world. Zhang Ruoxi next to Yang Kai said shyly, then lowered her head. Yang Kai chuckled and patted Zhang Ruoxi's little head. Little girl, you've got good eyes. And once you grow up, you'll surely find a good husband. I don't want to, Zhang Ruoxi said weakly. Ning Yuanshu was very infuriated to see this man and a woman flirting in front of his eyes. All of a sudden, Yang Kai's expression turned solemn and he said in a deep voice, Young Palace Master, let's take this chance to make something clear. What is it? Ning Yuanshu was startled. Yang Kai cast a glance at him. You two old men, Gao Shan and Lu Shuai, can stand here as witnesses. I saw with my own eyes how your big brother Ning Yuancheng died. Upon hearing this, the bodies of Gao Shan and Lu Shuai shook, while Ning Yuanshu's pupils contracted and he yelled. As expected, you were the one responsible all along. Yang Kai snorted and said, I said I witnessed the murder, not that it was me who killed Ning Yuancheng. Who killed him then? Ning Yuanshu asked. The wood spirit. The wood spirit? Ning Yuanshu raised his brows and revealed a confused look, as if he had never heard about it. But the pupils of Gao Shan and Lu Shuai contracted. Gao Shan shouted in surprise. 2 years ago, I heard that a wood spirit appeared and ran amok in Maplewood City, spreading its seeds, devouring souls and enslaving people. You're right. Yang Kai nodded and said, the wood spirit planted its seed in Ning Yuancheng at some unknown time and no one detected it. It is a long and complicated story, but since Ning Yuancheng is someone from the Flying Saint Palace, I'll tell you everything. Soon after, Yang Kai told them briefly what had happened on that day. Upon hearing him, Gao Shan quieted for a long while before summarizing. According to what you have said, after the auction that took place on that day, the young lord and his companions left Maplewood City, but Star Soul Palace's exiled disciple Han Lung tailed after them and assaulted them outside the city to steal their possessions. Han Lung even managed to defeat our Flying Saint Palace's elder Louis, but he was killed by the wood spirit inside the body of the young lord. That's right. Yang Kai nodded. I happened to pass by during the incident and unexpectedly witnessed everything. At that time, I was only a third-order origin king, so I could only watch the battle from afar. Yang Kai said. What? You were only a third-order origin king at the time? Gao Shan and Lu Shuai were taken aback by what they had just heard and they couldn't help but shout in alarm, as if they had just realized something incredulous. If what Yang Kai had said was true and he was only a third-order origin king 2 years ago, then he would have broken through 2 minor realms, even crossing a great realm, to arrive at his current second-order Dao Source realm cultivation in that short span of time. This rate of advancement was too terrifying. If he continued advancing at the same pace, then wouldn't he be a third-order Dao Source realm cultivator next year? Then an Emperor realm master the year after that? It wasn't so easy for a Dao Source realm cultivator to break through to the Emperor realm. But if Yang Kai was given 20 years, then he would be able to achieve it, would he not? Moreover, Gao Shan and Lu Shuai had heard that Yang Kai consumed an extraordinary treasure pill in the Four Seasons realm, so he had a higher chance to reach the Emperor realm than an average person. They had spent most of their lives in cultivation, yet they still couldn't even touch upon the Emperor realm, while a young boy had a great chance to reach it. Upon thinking of this, they both felt quite upset and complex in their hearts. That is why. Yang Kai spread his arms. The death of Ning Yuancheng has nothing to do with me. Ning Yuanshu furrowed his brow, not sure whether he should trust Yang Kai. He fell silent for a moment before asking, what about my brother's possessions? I heard that you once used our Flying Saint Palace's flying ship artifact. Where is that artifact and where is the fire attribute artifact spirit that was bought by my brother at the auction? Young Palace Master, I can't understand what you're saying. Yang Kai looked at Ning Yuanshu curiously. Stop playing dumb. Ning Yuanshu flew into a rage. My brother has already died, and his possessions belong to our Flying Saint Palace. I have the right to retrieve them. Yang Kai scratched his face and said, do you have to insist? Your Flying Saint Palace is a great force, so 1 or 2 flying artifacts should be nothing in your eyes. Since it's nothing, then give it back to me. Ning Yuanshu shouted. Ha! Yang Kai sighed and said, fine. I have to tell you that your ship artifact has already been destroyed. Destroy. Destroyed. Ning Yuanshu's eyes widened up and he said in surprise, that's impossible. That was a Dao Source grade artifact, and it is able to withstand the attacks of all cultivators below the Emperor realm. Couldn't be destroyed so easily. Even my Flying Saint Palace only has a few ships at such a high grade. Yang Kai said solemnly, it has been destroyed by an Emperor realm master. The ship artifact had really been destroyed, and it was destroyed with a single strike from Ant Feng, who had taken Mo Xiaoqi away. Ant Feng was a third-order Emperor realm master, so it had been easy for her to destroy the ship. As compensation, she did give Yang Kai a wooden boat artifact though. The boat wasn't as large as the ship, but it was simple, light, and more convenient. Upon hearing this, the corners of Ning Yuanshu's mouth twitched. Who did you provoke? Gao Xiao said in surprise. You angered an Emperor Realm Master and are still alive? The members of Flying Saint Palace looked at Yang Kai in surprise. I didn't really exchange blows with her. Yang Kai's face flushed. I was hit suddenly by her, but fortunately that senior didn't seem interested in my life. As he spoke, he added, besides, after Ning Yuancheng's death, that ship became ownerless and naturally should belong to whoever picked it up. Since I found it, it's mine. Why grumble about it now? Fine, I'll grant you that. Ning Yuanshu shouted. The ship has been destroyed, but what's about the fire attribute artifact spirit? It said that the artifact spirit had already gained a high degree of sentience. Yang Kai sneered and said, didn't you answer that question yourself? The artifact spirit already gained sentience, so it escaped the first chance it got. Escaped? Didn't you just see a powerful artifact spirit that had gained sentience? Yang Kai sneered, referring to the artifact spirit of the demonic warhammer. Upon hearing this, Ning Yuanshu's expression turned aghast as he obviously recalled the violent encounter just now. Then doesn't this mean there is nothing left? Gao Shan furrowed his brows. What else would be left? Didn't I already explain everything to you? Yang Kai chuckled. As for the other master who came from Flying Saint Palace, Fu Sitong, that man was indeed quite strong, so even if I say that I killed him, you wouldn't believe me. That's a matter of course you wouldn't be able to do so. Ning Yuanshu sneered and mocked. City Lord Duan already said that Elder Fu died after he was corrupted by the ancient demon Qi. That's right. Yang Kai clapped and said with a smile. Then we have already resolved our misunderstanding. So don't keep bothering me in the future or accusing me of murdering a member of the Flying Saint Palace. Young Palace Master, you seem like a reasonable fellow. So let us retain a good relationship between us, so we can still be friends when we next meet. Upon hearing the word, friends, Ning Yuanshu couldn't help but gaze around in fear that the demonic war hammer would suddenly appear. You don't have the final say in this? Gao Shan shook his head slowly. Then, it's you who has the final say? Yang Kai's expression turned cold. No, Lu Shan replied. Then who has the final say? Yang Kai's expression had already turned gloomy. Gao Shan said, if you're not guilty, then why don't you take a trip with us to Flying Saint Palace and explain everything to the Palace Master? It will be up to him to make the final judgment. That's right, Lu Shan nodded and said, you must come back with us to the sect. Upon hearing this, Yang Kai laughed in response and looked meaningfully at Gao Shan, saying, protectors, it looks like you have misunderstood something. What? I provided you with an explanation not because I'm afraid of you, but rather because I don't want to incur trouble for no reason. It's up to you whether you want to believe me or not. However, if you keep bothering me for no reason, then, heh. Yang Kai still wore a smile across his face, but his gaze had already turned cold. Gao Shan and Lu Shan suddenly shivered for no reason, and their pupils couldn't help but contract, feeling like great danger was looming over them. As they mulled this over, they suddenly recalled that Yang Kai had a good relationship with Elder Gao Shueting, and she had even told him to visit her room tonight in front of so many people. They didn't dare to make a move against Yang Kai due to this. If they incurred Gao Shueting's wrath, then they would all lose their lives. Even if the Palace Master arrived personally, he still wouldn't dare to make a move against Yang Kai unless he planned to kidnap him stealthily. After Gao Shan and Lu Shi came to this conclusion, they realized that this affair was more thorny than they thought. Gao Shan said, young Master Yang, if you don't want to go with us to the sect, that is fine, but you have to write a letter for us to take back to the Palace Master. If we don't do at least that much, then the Palace Master may accuse us of neglecting our duties. We would have wasted time in Maplewood City without accomplishing anything. That's none of my business, Yang Kai snorted coldly. Please, young Master Yang, let's have a proper discussion about this, Gao Shan entreated shamelessly. Get lost. As Yang Kai spoke, he placed the myriad sword in front of him and said viciously, I'll repeat it for the last time. If you keep bothering me so stubbornly, then don't blame me for taking your lives. As his voice fell, he pushed his source qi wildly, while also sending out his divine sense to envelop Gao Shan and Lu Shui. The expressions of Gao Shan and Lu Shan turned aghast as they suddenly felt the silhouette of this young man before them turn large and lofty. His aura wasn't any different than a mountain weighing on their chests, and they almost couldn't breathe properly. It was only at this moment that they suddenly realized that Yang Kai's power was likely no less than Luo Yuan's. This short moment felt like years, and by the time the two old men came back to their senses, Yang Kai had already disappeared. They both couldn't help but exchange a glance, and they could clearly see the shock in each other's eyes. "That man. We mustn't provoke him again," Gao Shan said in a deep voice with his fright still apparent on his face. His instincts told him clearly that if he provoked Yang Kai again, then he would likely lose his life. "You're right." Lu Shan wiped off the cold sweat on his forehead and nodded. "Then, did I get beaten by him for nothing?" Ning Yuanshu pointed at his cheeks with an aggrieved look and said, "He insulted and shamed me, and he killed Zhuangpan. Does our flying Saint Palace have to bear this in silence? If we do so, I won't have the face to stay in the Southern Territory." Gao Shan cast a glance at him, then sighed. "Zhuangpan is a despicable coward whose death isn't worth pitying. As for you, just take it as a mosquito's bite." Upon hearing this, the corners of Ning Yuanshu's mouth twitched. The two old men had already expressed their standpoints, and he couldn't take revenge by himself even if he wanted to, so he could only bear this in silence. Inside the Qin family residence, Yang Kai, Qin Zhaoyang, and their companions had already arrived back home. Yang Kai had no place to go back to in Maplewood City. In the past, he still had a rented secluded home, but once his rent expired, he didn't bother renewing it. Fortunately, the Qin family didn't treat him as a stranger and offered him accommodations. The members of Eight Paths sect had also returned, and they had all gone back to their courtyard under the lead of Luo Yuan and the round-faced woman. But Yang Kai noticed that Luo Yuan was now gazing at him with a dangerous glint in his eyes. He probably wanted to have a fight against him, and he almost got a headache thinking about this. "Little brother Yang, I have asked the servants to prepare this courtyard specifically for you. It is one of my Qin family's best. You can rest here." Qin Zhaoyang brought him into a courtyard and spoke. "Patriarch Qin, thank you for your trouble," Yang Kai said. "You're welcome. If you need anything, just call the servants and ask them." Qin Zhaoyang laughed and said, I won't stay here and disturb your rest. I need to go back and check on Yuer's condition." After Qin Zhaoyang left, Yang Kai walked into the courtyard with Zhang Ruoxi and observed it. This courtyard wasn't big, but it was peaceful, refined, and clean. It also had abundant world energy which made Yang Kai satisfied. After he observed the courtyard for a while, he asked Zhang Ruoxi to take a room for herself before he turned his head to look at Yi Jinghan, who had followed him in silence like a shadow the whole time. He couldn't help letting out a long sigh upon gazing at her. Seeing this, Yi Jinghan bit her rosy lips and revealed a faint smile. "Stop it. Don't smile like that. It's uglier than if you just cried instead," Yang Kai said with an annoyed look on his face. Upon hearing this, Yi Jinghan's body shivered as she turned deathly pale, her eyes becoming slightly red. "What's the matter? Come in and let's have a chat." Yang Kai gestured lightly with his head, then pushed open the door and went into the room. Upon hearing this, Yi Jinghan was taken aback, and the distress apparent on her face quickly turned into delight as she said sweetly, "Many thanks, young Master Yang." She quickly went inside, as if she was afraid Yang Kai would go back on his word. Inside the room, Yang Kai had just started observing the room, and he still didn't have a clear look at the ornaments and furniture here. Yet, Yi Jinghan had already moved to quickly place a chair behind him. "Young Master Yang, please sit down." Yang Kai cast a glance at her, then raised his robe and sat down. At this moment, Yi Jinghan had already raised the teapot on the table and poured water for Yang Kai, then placed the cup in front of him. "Young Master Yang, please have a drink." After her voice fell, she moved her hands again, and a plate of fresh spirit fruits appeared on the table. She asked with a smile, "I have brought them with me from Thousand Leaves sect. I wonder if they are to your liking. Please don't refuse them." Yang Kai's expression turned strange. as he had never been served so attentively before by anyone. If Yi Jinghan worked as a servant or maid, then she would be a very competent one. Why are you serving me? Yang Kai looked at her warily. Did you fall for me? I know that I'm so handsome and graceful and a lot of women are in love with me. He flung his head back and said in a deep voice, but I'm already taken. So, you have to refrain from having any presumptuous thoughts about me. Upon hearing this, Yi Jinghan's face got flushed and she said indignantly, Young Master Yang, what are you saying? She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She had never seen someone who could boast so shamelessly. Ha! Am I mistaken? Embarrassment appeared on Yang Kai's face and he let out a hollow laugh. I'm just joking. Don't take it seriously. As he spoke, he took a spirit fruit on the table and started gnawing on it. It was pretty delicious and he couldn't help but nod. Speak. What kind of pill do you want? What? Yi Jinghan was bewildered by his question and a confused look appeared on her face. Yang Kai sneered. You have been following me since you recognized me, and you're still serving me so meticulously. The only thing left is for you to serve me in bed. Aren't you here to ask something from me? You're right. Yi Jinghan nodded. Aren't you here to ask me to refine a pill for you? Yi Jinghan revealed an enlightened look and said with a smile, Young Master Yang, your attainments in the alchemic Tao have already reached an unimaginable height, even allowing you to refine the extraordinary treasure pill. Your talent and attainments in this craft are second to none in the world. I know that you are flattering me, but it's still pleasant to hear. Yang Kai chuckled in response. Yi Jinghan continued, but I didn't seek you to ask you to refine a pill for me. Then what do you want? Yang Kai furrowed his brows and got wary. Yi Jinghan explained, our Thousand Leaves sect isn't a big sect, but we still have a Tao source grade alchemist under our employ, so we don't have to trouble you to refine pills for us. I have sought you out to ask you to repair something for us. Repair? Yang Kai furrowed his brows. What is it? Yi Jinghan pursed her rosy lips and surveyed the surroundings warily before saying in a low voice, a space array. A space array? Yang Kai's pupils contracted and he chuckled then said, it looks like a lot of people know that I am well-versed in the Tao of space. In the Four Seasons realm, he had manipulated space principles in front of many people, so obviously he couldn't keep this a secret any longer. He had already expected that this matter would be exposed, but he still didn't expect that Yi Jinghan sought him out due to this. She obviously wanted to draw help from his comprehension of the Tao of space to repair the space array. I indeed heard such news from a certain individual. If it's just for repairing a space array, then you don't have to seek me out. Why not find an appropriate array master? Yi Jinghan smiled bitterly. If it was an ordinary space array, then an array master would have been able to repair it, but my Thousand Leaves sect's array is... We have already sought several array masters and have even invited members of the Gong family, but none were able to repair it. Even the members of the Gong family couldn't repair it? Yang Kai was surprised to hear this before he suddenly realized something, asking in a solemn tone, is it a world-crossing space array? Yi Jinghan's pretty eyes lit up and she nodded. Young Master Yang, you're indeed as sharp as the rumors say. It is a world-crossing space array. Yang Kai's expression changed as he stared at Yi Jinghan and asked, does your Thousand Leaves sect control a sealed world? Yi Jinghan let out a bitter laugh. It looks like I can't hide anything from young Master Yang. And you are correct, my Thousand Leaves sect possesses a sealed world, and it was once used as a cultivation paradise for our disciples. We don't know how this sealed world was formed, and we also don't know where exactly it is located in the void, so we have no other way to enter it except through the space array. But the array somehow stopped working nearly 2,000 years ago, making it impossible for us to enter the sealed world since then. Is that sealed world so important to your Thousand Leaves sect? Yang Kai asked. Yi Jinghan nodded. 2,000 years ago, while my Thousand Leaves sect was not on par with the top sects like Azure Sun Temple and Heavenly Martial Holy Land, we were still considered a first-class force. However, after the entrance to the sealed world was lost, the sect entered a period of decline. Today, we are barely... Yi Jinghan stopped here, as if she didn't want to talk about their current dire straits. Yang Kai sneered, The members of your sect simply didn't cultivate hard enough. This has nothing to do with losing your sealed world. Not every sect has its own sealed world, but as long as one strives to make progress and advance further, such a sealed world makes no difference. Yi Jinghan's pretty face turned pale and she said bitterly, "Young Master Yang, you aren't mistaken. However, 2,000 years ago, the sect master at the time brought many of the sect's core inheritances as well as the supreme treasures of our sect into that sealed world, all of which became lost to us when the entrance disappeared. Many of our Thousand Leaves sect's secret arts and techniques could no longer be cultivated after losing those inheritances, and the aura-gathering array of our sect also used that sealed world as its core. Once the entrance shut, the world energy density of our sect also began thinning." "I understand." Upon hearing this, Yang Kai had already understood Yi Jinghan's implication. They had lost the inheritances connected to numerous techniques and divine abilities, as well as their supreme treasures and their supply of world energy. What cultivators needed most to cultivate was abundant world energy, and if their supply became scarce, then it was normal for subsequent generations from Thousand Leaves sect to become weaker. Yi Jinghan bit her rosy lips and said in a deep voice, "I want to invite you to take a trip with me to Thousand Leaves sect in order to repair our world-crossing space array. If you agree to do so, then all members of Thousand Leaves sect will be very grateful to you, and we will offer you a generous reward." This? Yang Kai rolled his eyes around and racked his brain for a long time, yet couldn't come up with any excuses, so he could only say, "I got it, but I'm quite busy now. Why don't you go back for now? Once I have some free time, I'll take a trip to your Thousand Leaves sect and I'll be sure to live up to your expectations." Yi Jinghan could clearly discern that he was just being perfunctory in his response. If she really trusted him and left, then she probably wouldn't ever see his shadow again. She could only entreat him anxiously, "Young Master Yang, it is only someone who is proficient in the Tao of Space who can repair our sect's space array. But the Tao of Space is so esoteric and mysterious that ordinary people cannot even begin to comprehend it. I have heard that a great senior living in the Eastern Territory Spirit Beast Island is proficient in the Tao of Space. That senior is a third-order Emperor Realm Master, and our little Thousand Leaves sect can't invite him. Are you implying that it's easy for you to invite an insignificant second-order Tao Source Realm cultivator like me?" Yang Kai cast a glance at her. Yi Jinghan quickly waved her hand and said, "That isn't what I mean. Young Master Yang, please don't take offense." Yang Kai nodded. "I have also heard about that senior from Spirit Beast Island." It looked like Mo Xiaoqi was also from the Spirit Beast Island, but she had never admitted it. However, after Yang Kai gained some understanding of the star boundary, it wasn't difficult for him to guess her origins after witnessing her Aunt Feng's terrifying strength. Only the members of the Spirit Beast Island could control so many monster beasts and have them fight for them. As he thought about Mo Xiaoqi, he couldn't help but wonder how she was faring. He arrived at the star boundary not long ago and he knew only a few people. One of them was Kong Si Ran, but he had been transferred by the Violet Source Chamber of Commerce after he reached the Tao Source Realm. As for his second acquaintance, Mo Xiaoqi, she had been fetched by her Auntie Feng and taken back home. Yi Jinghan suddenly noticed that Yang Kai had quieted and got lost in his thoughts for a long while. She could only say through gnashed teeth, "Actually, I have sought you on someone's recommendation." "Which shameless bastard has done so? Tell me, just tell me. I promise I won't kill him." Yang Kai flew into a rage. Yi Jinghan pursed her lips and said with a smile, "It was Gong Wenshan. You know him, don't you? That bastard." Yang Kai's eyes bulged as he muttered, "Do you know him?" Gong Wenshan was the rising star of the Heavenly River Valley's Gong family. The Gong family was famed for its array masters, and Gong Wenshan was also an array master. In the Four Seasons realm, he had drawn help from the barrier around the Flowing Time Temple to obstruct Heavenly Martial Holy Land's Wuchang, forcing the latter to miss a rare opportunity because of this. That boy looked honest and simple-minded, but he was actually a sinister and scheming scourge. Yang Kai would have never imagined that it was Gong Wenshan who recommended him to Yi Jinghan. Yi Jinghan replied, "Several years ago, we invited him to repair our Thousand Leaves Sect's space array, But he didn't succeed, and he told us to seek a person proficient in the Tao of space to repair it. 3 months ago, I suddenly received a message from him suggesting I seek young Master Yang out. I planned to deal with this place's affairs first before making a trip to Azure Sun Temple to try my luck. But I didn't expect to run into you here. Don't you think we were brought together by fate? Yi Jinghan revealed an excited look, as if she was a young girl yearning for love. Yang Kai snorted. Only distressed men and love-struck girls are brought together by fate. Do you want to have such a fate with me? Yi Jinghan sweated profusely and said awkwardly, Young Master Yang, you really know how to joke. I'm not so fortunate. I have met that brat, Gong Wenshan, only once, and I'm not close to him. He has to take responsibility for his words. This has nothing to do with me. Yi Jinghan let out a long sigh. Young Master Yang, you don't want to help me, do you? She bit her thin lips, wearing an adorable and pitiful look.